Welcome back guys. Today I am going to make a videos on AutoCAD. Basically it's preparation of AutoCAD Certified Professional exam. Link for the examination is available in description menu below. So if you want to become an Autodesk certified user, to watch complete video, practice on your system and then apply for the same. You might aware that we have made lot of tutorial on Revit, we have made videos on Tekla and ETAB as well, but yet we have not made any tutorial on AutoCAD, and the reason is I have planned to make one and only video which cover all the commands which required for professional users. Basically there are more than 150 commands available in AutoCAD. We have covered all important commands among them. To watch complete course of 3 hours for students, it's much better than any 3 hours movie, because at the end of this course you will learn lot of new tips and tricks which can make your work more smarter, more faster and more accurate. So let's start the course. Subscribe to our channel Technodraft Solution and don't forget to press the bell icon. Now you will notice that we have got two little buttons at the bottom. We have got learn and we have got create. Now if you want to create new files, we would use this create button at the bottom of the screen. If I want to learn, you will notice that there is also tools available to you that allows you to look at videos and so on as well. So what we are going to stick with is the create button right here. Now if I want to create a new blank AutoCAD for drawing and work with it, I can go to this get started tools here. Now you will notice it says start drawing. So if I click on the down arrow right here like this, I can go and pick a particular AutoCAD template, DWT files. And if I scroll down a little list here, you can see there is a number of default template files available to me in AutoCAD 2016. So if I selected, for example, a CAD DWT, that would give me a feet and inches drawing template. You can see the title of the template there when I hover over it. If I hover over a CAD, so that will give me a normal international metric drawing template that works in millimeters for example. So that's how I would create a new blank AutoCAD template or AutoCAD DWG drawing file. So I can use that there. I could also just click on start drawing and that will allow me to start drawing on a blank template that is unitless and is generic, so I can use that one as well. Now if I want to open an existing file, I have got a number of ways that I can open up a file. I can go up to the application menu here and click on this little flyout here, and you can see there that I can go to previously opened drawing, or I can hover over open here and I can open a drawing from the cloud if I'm using a 360, or I can just open existing drawings I may have saved, and you also notice I can create new files there as well. And if I click on new, that will take me to the folder or perhaps the startup menu here as well, which allows me to go and find particular AutoCAD template files DWT. I will just look on cancel there now. Close that down. So that's just using the application menu. I can also create a new file from the quick application toolbar here, the Q80. So there is a new application, new again, that will again allow me to create a new drawing using the startup menu. If you have got the startup menu switched on, it's the startup variable STAARTUP. Type that in, press enter. It's a 1 or 0 to switch it on and off if you are used to using AutoCAD variables. I can just click on open here. I can open an existing file and that will take me to a folder where there are some existing files to open now. You will notice we are in the drawings folder. That's my drawings folder located on my laptop. Now you will notice there are two exercise files in there. When we are working with this particular exercise files, you will notice that we have one that is in this case two basic drawing skill house DWG. You will also notice that we have got two basic drawing skills house complete DWG. I'm going to use the complete DWG file for the video. If you want to follow along with me to the video, you are gonna look for the little file without the word complete in it. So you would open this file here, but I would use this file here in the video to open up and work on for this particular video. So I'm going to select that file now and I'm going to click on open, or I will cancel and select it from my recent documents here as well on the start screen. So if I click there, and that will opens up an existing AutoCAD TWG file. As you can see here, this file is open, and we will start from the object selecting method to learn the process of selecting the object. So let's see how you can select the object in AutoCAD. Now at selecting object and how we select them. Now the best way to do is to use one of the modify commands available to you in AutoCAD. So before we do anything, let's jump into the home tab on the ribbon, which you will notice is current in my particular AutoCAD at the moment. And you can see the modify panel here, and we are going to utilize the erase command, which is this little icon here. Looks like a pencil with the eraser on the end. So you click there, and when you come into the drawing area, you can see you are prompted to select objects. Now the useful thing is that select objects prompt allows me to utilize lots of different method of selection. So you have got two regular types of selection. You have got window selection and crossing selection. So if I take my little big box up to here and I click once and I drag like that, can you see I'm taking the window selection all the way around all of the objects. So everything inside that window now, if I click a second time, will be selected. And you can see they have grayed out ready to be erased. So if I press enter now or right click, you can see they have all erased like that. So all of the objects in that window selection have been erased. I will just undo that using the undo. They have gone on a quick access toolbar. Now that's the window selection. Now crossing selection allows me to select a group of objects that either the window crosses or they are actually inside the selection window. So I will go to the erase command again up here, and I'm going to select all of these circles. Now I don't have to go obviously around all those circles. I can put my pix box there, click and just drag that across. You will notice some of the circles are in the crossing selection, some of them aren't. But if I click that second time, you will notice they grayed out and they are all selected. If I right click to confirm, they are all erased. So I'll just undo that. Now up here on the quick access toolbar like so. So you will notice the window selection, the objects have to be inside the window. A crossing selection, they can be inside the window but also just crossed by the window with selection. Now you will notice there that we had a really nice rectangle selection. There is also a weird tool available to you in AutoCAD. That is called a lasso selection. So if I just click and drag like that, it does the rectangle. But if I click and drag at the same time, I get this funny little lasso things where I just lasso what I want. It select everything that was crossed because I did that from right to left, so it's a crossing selection. If I went from the left to right, I did it that way. Can you see it's blue and it's window selection? So if I go like that, can you see it's only the object that are actually encompassed by the lasso? Can you see? So that lasso selection is quite useful when you are fine tuning small detail. So for example, if I zoomed in and click and drag like that, so little lasso like that, see I can't get that little circle because I haven't lassoed the whole circle. But if I come around like this, then do that, I get the whole circle selected. Now that one object is selected, it's great for close up work, that little lasso. It's very useful. So I will just zoom out again. So selection, what are the selection do we have? Well, if I go back to the arrow command here, I can actually type selection command. Now there is such thing as a window polygon, which is WP, and also the crossing polygon. If I type CP like that, select object prompt and press enter, it prompts me now for the first polygon point or pick drag cursor. So if I zoom in the circles, now what I can do is I can do the crossing polygon. So if I click say there and just drag and click again and click again and click again, there is my crossing polygon like that. If I right click to confirm that polygon and select enter, there can be, you see it only select the circles that I have crossed with that polygon. So I would then right click again now and erase those circles. So I'll just undo that again, back to the undo on quick access toolbar. So that's using a crossing polygon. Now the other thing you can do is you can actually select everything, and it's very easy to do, but be careful with it, especially with the erase command. So if I go to erase there and come to the select object prompts and type all like so and press enter, it will select absolutely everything in the model space. Press enter again, it has deleted everything. Now be aware, I can undo that, and but I have also got a command called oops as well, which comes with selection, but it actually only undoes with erase command. So if I did the erase again and I typed all and press enter and then enter again to erase everything. But so I go to the draw circle now, and I don't know what layer I'm not worried, but if I draw a circle like that and just hit escape a couple of times to the cancel command, there is a circle. Now if I just type oops like that and press enter, it brings everything back that I erased. Its legacy going away back to much older version of AutoCAD, but it only undoes the last erase that you did. So be aware that oops, it can be quite useful if you need it, but as you can see, that's how we select object in AutoCAD. Those are the sort of selection tools that you are going to need to know about when you are doing your AutoCAD professional course. We are now going to look at dynamic input, direct distance, and coordinate. Now you notice the drawings input distance got split template, that is completed version that I will save for you. There is also a two inputs distance called plates DWG that is ready for you in your description below. Now what we are going to do is we are going to look at the method of inputs that AutoCAD use, and these are very important generally from using AutoCAD perspective, but also because they are covered in your AutoCAD professional certification exam. So you will notice we have got the plates, but you will notice also that we have got this blank area here. Now in the layers, by default the file should be set to the lines layer. If it isn't, going to the layer control, make sure that the lines layer is the current layer drafting layer. And then what we are going to do is we are going to draw some lines using dynamic input, direct distance, and coordinates. We are going to have a look at all of it. So zoom in a little bit so that you can see this panel on the left here. I have zoomed in nice and tight, so I can see this panel here on the left, and we are going to place a new panel opening in our plate. Now we are going to use that using the lines layer, as I mentioned earlier, to the dynamic input. First of all, we use the dynamic input in AutoCAD itself. Well, you have got the input here on the command line, and if you hover over the command line, it highlights, but dynamic input is down here on the status bar right there. So dynamic input on, if I click on it, that switches it off. If I click on it again, that switches it on. It's a toggle down and on the status bar now. If it isn't on, go all the way over here, see these little three lines, click on it, and you will see that there is all the different settings to switch on the status bar. And there is dynamic input, it's indicating it's switched on down here on the status bar. Switch it on. If it isn't on, then click on the three lines again to close the menu. So with dynamic input on, what allows us to do is see what we are going to actually input the command itself. So I'm going to go to the line command here on the draw panel on the home tab, and I'm going to come into the drawing area, and there is my dynamic input. See, next to the crosshair, it's prompting me to specify the first point of my lines. It's also prompting me on the command. If I switch the dynamic input, you will see there is no prompt on the crosshair. So that's what dynamic input is all about. It means you can see it's a bit like watching a foreign movie with subtitle. Instead of looking down at the bottom of the screen all the times to see the command line, you are looking at the crosshair heads up design altered, let's call it. Now we are going to specify our first point of our line. I'm going to start down here, just pick a point about there and click, and then As I draw, can you see there is my dynamic input prompting me for a distance and the next point in the angle. I can use the tab key there to toggle between angle and distance like so, and that is my direct distance entry. So if I toggle back to the distance like that, and I want to keep that vertical, so you will notice my polar tracking is on. Again, that's another setting down on the status bar down here. So if I come down here, you will see there polar tracking is on. So that means I can lock into that 90-degree angle going upwards, and then I can specify a distance as I come up. Can you see there is a distance there highlighted in blue? I'm gonna type in 4 and press enter, and there is my line, 4 units of long. I don't know what units this particular drawings is in. I'm not too worried, it's a generic drawing, but it allows me to specify distance. So if I come across this way again, I can do that horizontally with my polar tracking, and I will type in 3 and enter. Then what I will do now, I will just press enter like so, and that closes out my line command. Now that's direct distance entry and dynamic input. So what about coordinates? Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw another line, but I want it to come off at the end of this line. So what I need to do is put in a relative coordinate that comes off the end of that line. So go back now to the line command, pick the endpoint snap like so, make sure that your object snaps are on, and click on them. As I come upwards, now I can type at the rate symbol, and add symbol allows me to put in basically what is called a relative coordinate. So if I type add, there is my add symbol. You will see it appears on the dynamic inputs, and if I put in something like 2 comma 2, that is meaning that the line is going to go from the end of this line to along and to up in the coordinate system. So when I press enter now, you will see that the line has gone to along that way in the positive direction to up. So the end of my lines is over here. Now obviously I don't want that line to go into the rectangle, so what I can do there, a nice trick on the right hand shortcut menu, right click and just undo that line segment, and I'm still in the line command, and then I can come down here, take that down using the direct distance entry again, type in 4 and enter, and then enter again to finish. There is my lines I wanted to draw. But again you will notice I can combine dynamic input coordinate entry and also the distance, the direct distance entry as well, and all of those tools are utilized in AutoCAD. All of the time practice with them to make perfect for your AutoCAD course. So let's have a look now at the inquiry commands available to us in AutoCAD. Now these inquiry commands allow us to make things like distance and areas, and also allow us to check the ID of a particular coordinate. So we are staying in the plate drawing, and we are now using the two inquiry plate complete drawing. Now I'm using the complete one because it's the completed version, and I will save that back into your exercise files for you to use if you want to follow along with the video. Make sure that you use two inquiry plate TWG because that's the clean version without anything added to it before the beginning of the video. So we have got the plates, we have got some circles, we have got some rectangles, but we have also got these lines that we were working on in the previous video. Now what I have done there is I have joined them together with this extra line at the bottom, and reason I have done that is we have now got a closed boundary that we can calculate the area of. More importantly, I can also measure distance. If I go to the home tab up here on the ribbon, and I go over to utilize utilities here and click on the flyer, can you see we have got this tool here? It's measure tool, and what I can do is I can click on it and click on the down arrow here, and I can measure distances, radius, angle, area or volume. Now we don't need to worry about volume because we are working in a flat 2D drawing. But if I go to distance, it now prompts me now for a first point. So I use that endpoint there click and that endpoint there click. The distance is 3 units. Now the lovely thing is, once I have done that, once I'm still in that measure geometry command, so I can use the menu here now, and I can say I want to calculate an area. So if I click there, now it's asking for the first corner point. Now obviously my screen is quite constricted at the moment. I will just let that down. It does fade away in a few seconds. But what I want to do now is just pan out with a little bit, just so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to work my way around the shape, ask for the first corner point. If I click once using the end point snap and just draw around the shape like so, can you see it's filling it in green? And I get to the first point again like so, like that. And if I may out right click and enter that, it gives me the area. Can you see there? Area equals 12 perimeters 14, just above the command line there is. So it's telling me that the area is 12 square units and the perimeter is 14 unit. Now I don't know what the units are in this drawing. It is purely generic. They are just units. They could be meters, kilometers, centimeters, feet, inches, could be anything. But I'm not worried. But the good thing is that I'm still in the measure geometry, so I can measure another distance. Now I'm just go endpoint to endpoint. Always useful to have the snaps on when you are doing this, because then it's obviously accurate, and that's for the distance is it's showing me on the dynamic input. Then now this measure geometry command is fantastic when you have gone the dynamic input switched on, because it all shows up on the crosshair so that you can see what's going on. And then when you are done, all you have got to do is hit that little exit button there, and we are done. We are out of the measure geometry command. Now one of the nice thing you can do is do the function F2 like that to bring up your AutoCAD text window. So that is your F2 key on your keyboard, and you can see that here is all our information. There is the 12 there, the area, there is the distance for there. And the nice thing about this is I can highlight and I can copy if I want to do the clipboard, and perhaps input that into a spreadsheet or perhaps into a Word documents, and then I just press F2 again to lose that, and I'm back to my drawing. And we're done. We have used the inquiry commands, and these tools again are very useful in AutoCAD. Practice, so that you are ready for to become an AutoCAD professional. We are now in the next section of your AutoCAD professional course, and we are going to be looking at drawing objects, utilizing some of the basic drawing skills that we gained in the previous section. Now in this particular section, I'm going to use the one AutoCAD drawing to work way through all the videos. There is also a blank drawing file for you to start with to follow along with the videos. So you will notice at the top of the screen I have 3 underscore drawing objects underscore complete .dwg. Open this will end up being saved each time as per each video, so that you have completed version available to you in your for your document to prepare the exercise. There will also be another drawing file 3 underscore drawing objects DWG. This is a blank drawing file for you to use to follow along with the videos. Now let's make sure that we have got some settings set up before we start drawing. In this particular video, go to the home tab on your ribbon and go to your layer panel and make sure that your layer is set to object like so. And then also down here make sure that you are in your model tab. Do all of your design work for this particular exercise in your model tab. Now also you need to make sure that a couple of drafting settings are on. So down here on the status bar, just make sure that your dynamic input is on. You can see the icon there is blue, and it's telling me that it's on in the title flyout menu there. And also make sure that your polar tracking is on here as well, because we will be utilizing that to draft accurately and neatly using specified angles. Now we are going to go the line command, which is in the home tab again on the ribbon here in the draw panel. Click on your line command, so, and then come into the drawing area. Now it's prompting you for the first point of your line using dynamic input. We are going to start at 0, 0. So in the box they are highlighted in blue, type 0 and then press the comma key or the tab key to go to the coordinate y coordinate box and also type in 0 again and then press enter. And you will notice now that the line is kind of the bottom of the screen a little bit there. Don't worry, just hold down the wheel on your mouse, pan upwards a bit and you will see this is a little grayed out kind of line setting there. And as you come up and release the mouse, can you see there is XY indicating where 0, 0 is, and you can see that our line has started at that intersection of Y and X. They are now using the polar tracking drag the mouse upwards vertically. Can you see up like that as if you are lining in parallel with the Y? There is, so we are gone upwards like that. And in the direct distance entry box, there you are going to type in the distance over 20 unit and press enter. Now you may notice that the line goes off the top of the screen. Don't worry, just roll back on the mouse a little bit and pan down a bit, and you will just have to keep doing that little bit until you can see where the line ends, like so. And there is the end of my line there. Now we are going to do all this as continuous set of line segment using the dynamic input, direct distance entry and polar tracking. So I'm now going to drag the mouse horizontally to the right, making sure that the polar tracking now locks in at 0 degree, going off horizontally to the right there. And in the direct distance entry box, we are going to type in 10 and press enter. And then I drag the mouse downwards, so I get a nice vertical downwards line again. You will see the polar is now at 270 and type in 5, press enter and then drag across to the right again at the 0 degrees, 10 again like before, press enter. Vertically upwards like so, and you will see there 5 in the direct distance entry and press enter. And then drag across again, and again this will be 10 again, fairly regular measurements, and press enter. And then I come vertically downwards to do the right hand side of the shape, type in 20 again like we did for the left hand side and press enter. And you will notice now that I am at this point here now, because this is a continuous set of line segment and I haven't deviated from the actually continuous set of segments. I can right click and on the shortcut menu just select close. That will close the last line to where I started at 0, 0. So what you have done there is you have utilized dynamic input, polar tracking and direct distance entry to create a group of lines and create the shape that we are going to work with in this particular set of videos. We are staying in the 3 underscore drawing objects complete DWG file, and you noticed that we have saved it and kept the lines that were drawn in the previous video. The idea being that we build this drawing up to the end with the completed drawing. Obviously, you can use the blank 3 underscore drawing objects DWG to follow along. Now what we are going to do in this particular video is create some rectangles. Now rectangles are basically a 4-sided polygon, and the rectangle command allows you to define the coordinate of 2 opposing diagonal corners of those rectangles. Now if we go over to the home tab here on the ribbon and go into the draw panel, you will find the rectangle command here. Click on the flyout here and you have got rectangle and polygon. Select the rectangle and come into the drawing area. Now because I have got dynamic input switched on as per the previous video, it's asking me for the first corner point of my rectangle. Now the good thing is, because we are using that 0, 0 as the bottom left corner of the lines where the y and x are the origin of the drawing at the moment, we can now work from 0, 0 and all of these coordinates tie into that 0, 0 origin point. So my first rectangle is going to start and 2, 2 like that. So I type in 2, press the comma key, type in 2 again for the y coordinate, press enter, and you will see that my rectangle now can, you see if I drag, it's starting at that 2 comma 2. Now the good thing about rectangle is the other corner point is relative to that 2 comma 2. So the 2 comma 2 that I have just set up as the first corner of the rectangle becomes in essence a temporary 0 0. So the coordinates I type in now for from that 2 comma 2 point, and I am going to set my rectangle to be 6 and a half by 11 and a half. So in the x direction 6.5 in the box, press the comma key, and then 11.5 in the y coordinate. If I press enter now, you will see there is my rectangle, nice and neat and tidy, placed without any fuss whatsoever. That's how quick and easy it is to draw a rectangle in AutoCAD. Now what I am going to do is the repeat command. Now I can just press enter, and that will repeat the rectangle command for me, or I can right click and select repeat rectangle on the shortcut menu. So the first corner point of the next rectangle is going to be 18, comma 4. So we are going to go 18 in the x direction, and comma 4, that's from the 0 0 point where the xy in the bottom left corner. So I press enter again once I have put in the first corner point, and you can see that we have start there. So there is our corner there, and it's relative, remember. So this time I'm going to make my rectangle 8.5 by 5.5. So in the coordinates here, just drag it out a little bit, doesn't matter where you take the mouse to at the moment, and I'm going to type in 8 comma 0.5, 8.5 comma 4.5. So it's 8.5 in the x direction, 4.5 in the y direction. If I press enter, you will see that's a smaller rectangle, but it's in like the landscape setting because the x value is bigger than y value, whereas in the previous rectangle it was the other way round. So that's how you create your rectangles when you are using AutoCAD. Now what do you want to do there is a practice using rectangle for your AutoCAD. To become an AutoCAD professional, use the rectangle tools, use coordinates, perhaps generate some other shapes, and take rectangle of them using object snap, for example, as well. So have a go with that deed and practice, 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 so that it will make you perfect. So what we are going to look at now in the drawing object section is we are going to look at drawing circle, and we are going to place 3 different types of circle in this drawing. Now again I'm staying in the 3 drawing objects complete DWG file and saving as I go along. Obviously you can do the same using the blank version of the drawing from the exercise files from the description below. So I'm going to zoom in the little bit. I'm going to put a crosshair in the center of the screen, roll up on the wheel, and not just to make things a bit bigger now. We are doing a little bit more detailed drawing. Here we are gonna be using the rectangle here. This is this one here, and this one here as part of the settings for some of the circles that we are going to draw now. The first one that we are going to draw is very quick and easy, and we are going to use some coordinates to place. If it first of all we go to the home tab on the ribbon and draw panel, if I click on the little flyout here underneath circle, you will notice that we have got lots of different types of circle that we can use. There is a center radius circle, center diameter circle, 2-point circle, 3-point circle, tangent tangent radius circle, and tangent 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 circle. Now we are going to use some of this, but what I suggest that you do for your AutoCAD professional is make sure that you practice with each type of circle. I'm not going to show you every single one, but practice on separate drawing with different types of circle. See how they work. Now the first one that I'm going to place is the center diameter circle. So I click on center diameter and come into the drawing area. Now you can see there specify center point. an object snap, I can actually type in the x and y coordinates as well. So we are going to specify the center of the circle and then the diameter of the circle. Now the center of the circle by way of coordinates from the 0, 0, the bottom left corner where x and y is going to be 25 in the x direction, and then press tab or the comma key, and then the other coordinates is going to be 16, like so. Now when I press enter, you will see that the circle is starting up here top right, and it's prompting me now for the diameter of the circle, and the diameter of this particular circle is going to be 5 units. Now a diameter goes all the way across the circle. It's not a radius coming from the center to the edge. Don't get those too confused, because it is very easy to do, and if you do that you might end up with the circle much bigger than you expected. So the diameter is going to be 5. Type that in the box there where it is highlighted in blue. Press enter, and there is my circle and with diameter of 5 placed now. And now the next one I'm going to place in the rectangle here on the left hand side. So I'm just going to pan upward a little bit. So we have got it nice and central on the screen, and I'm going to use a tangent circle. Now before I do that, make sure that your tangent snap is switched on. So we come down to the status bar, just click on the little arrow next to the object snap there and make sure that the tangent is on. Now in AutoCAD 26, then I can just hover over it like that and click on the little tick appears on tangent object snap, and now then I can on arrow here to lose. Make sure that tangent snap is on, otherwise the next circle command will not work. So back up to the circle flyout menu here, and I want the tangent. Now what this means is on selecting 3 different tangents to place my circle, and AutoCAD will calculate the radius or diameter based on those tangents. So what I'm going to do is highlight here, see the tangent snap appears just here, and so I click there, get a tangent on that line, there get a tangent on that line there, and each time the tangent snap appears. So just click on that's my circle. So what is done is it's defined a circle using the tangents, that tangent and that tangent, where the circle touches each of those lines perpendicularly. Now the other type of circle that we are going to place is the tangent radius. So this is the tangential to side of the rectangle, but then we type the radius in as well. So tangent back circle command, and we are going to for tangent radius right here, again making sure the tangent snap is on, and using the right hand rectangle, when I get the tangent there, click once. When I get the tangent there, click this, and then it will prompt me for radius. If I come across like this, just take it away from the rectangle just to avoid the object snap, and I'm going to put the radius of the circle in 3 there of 2 units, and I press enter, and there is my tangent radius. So you see it's tangential there and it's tangential there, and the circle radius of 2. So that's how you place some of the different circles in AutoCAD, and I cannot stress enough for your AutoCAD course. With all of these different types of the circle here in the flyout menu of the ribbon, have a go with each one so that you are prepared for your examination for your future work. We are going to look at drawing arcs in our AutoCAD drawing in preparation for our AutoCAD Professional course or tutorial. So you notice I have stayed in the 3 drawing objects underscore complete.dwg file. Obviously, if you are following along from the blank drawing from when you first started with the exercise file from description menu below, you should be in the position as me now, saving the drawing as we go, and you can see now that we have got all the circles and the rectangles placed from the previous videos. I'm just going to zoom and pan a little bit, so I'm going to pan down and zoom in so that I can see the tops of these lines here. So I want to sort of top here like that, just halfway down, and we are going to place an arc using this line here and this line here, but we are going to place 2 different types of arcs. Now there are lots of different types of arcs in AutoCAD. Make sure, and I can't stress this enough, that you practice with each different type of arc, because you don't know which type of arc you are going to need to use in future. So we go to the home tab on the ribbon again and into the draw panel and click on the flyout underneath the arc command, and you can see lots of different arcs available to you. I am going to start with one of the more basic ones, which is start, center, end. And as I come into the drawing area now, it's prompting me for the start point of the arc. Now before you do anything else, go down to your object snaps here. You can do that mid command, click on the arrow, just make sure that end point and midpoint on they should by default anyway, but just make sure they are on. Those two there, click on them and make sure they are clicked. If you click on them again, it on takes them little toggle on off. That closes menu, and to start point of my arc, it's going to be the right hand end of the line. Now that's because AutoCAD by default does arcs and angles anti-clockwise or counterclockwise. If I go here to this endpoint here, that will be the start point of my arc. So there is the endpoint. The center point of my arc will be the midpoint snap here along with the click again, and then as I come across, can you see the arc taking shape? There is the endpoint of my arc, and I click again and the closes out the command. So it is the start point there, go to the midpoint for the center and endpoint for that endpoint snap there. Now I'm going to recreate exactly the same arc but use a totally different method. So I'm going to place an arc now on this line here. I go back up to the flyout here on the arc menu, and I'm going to select start and angle, which is the included angle for my arc. So I click again and I'm going to utilize this start point. So that's my start point. So I come across to my end point here and I click again like so. Now you can see that as I come up, can you see as I move around, it's trying to form the arc, but it needs the included angle in the entry box there. So if I type in 180 degrees like that and press enter, now it's positive 180 degrees because I started my arc on the right hand end of the line. That means I'm coming from the right hand end of the line over towards the left hand end of the line. So that means it's positive angle because I'm going anti-clockwise or counterclockwise. Remember that little trick, that counterclockwise thing is very important, especially in your AutoCAD Professional. Press enter now, and that arc is exactly the same as the left hand arc, but I have drawn it using a totally different method. So get practicing with those different arc method and get ready for your to become AutoCAD Professional. The last thing we are going to look at in this drawing object section of the AutoCAD Professional is how to draw polygon. AutoCAD can draw anything from a 3-sided polygon up to a 1024-sided polygon. Bear in mind, if you think about if these rectangles are polygons, they are 4-sided polygons. Now the polygon command is available at home tab on the ribbon here, and it's actually of the little flyout menu for a rectangle. So there is the polygon command there, click on it, come into the drawing area, and it prompts you for the number of sides. The default is normally 4, as you can see. Now I'm staying in the 3 drawing objects complete PWG file, and I have saved it as I have gone along to make sure that you have got a final completed version in your exercise from description menu below. Use the blank 3 drawing objects to follow along with the video saving as you go along as well, so that you also get a final version. So we are looking back at this polygon command. I'm going to go for 6-sided hexagon. So I type in 6 and press enter like so. So now it's prompting me for the center of the polygon. Now when you do place a polygon in AutoCAD, it's a bit like placing a circle because it needs a center for the circle that either is circumscribed around the polygon or the polygon is inscribed inside of end. And you will see what happened in a moment when I specify at the center of my polygon. Now I'm going to use the midpoint snap here. on this line here, and I'm going to click like so. Now as soon as I click for the center of the polygon, I get the option of inscribed inside the circle or circumscribed about the circle. So you got to imagine a circle where the polygon is inside and the vertical vertices of the polygon are touching the edges of the circle, or it's circumscribed about the circle, so the polygon is outside the circle and each side of the polygon is touching the circle at the tangent. I'm going to go for inscribed in circle like so. Then as I come out, now you can see that there is my six-sided polygon, and good thing is I can utilize my polar tracking object snap to make that whatever size I want it to be. So you will notice that now I am being completed to specify the radius of the circle. Now you will notice it's trying to snap to extension and endpoints, and everything else just move the crosshair away from any objects. And you will see where it's specifying the radius of the circle. Now the radius of my circle, I'm going to make it 2.5. So I type in 2.5 like so and press enter. And there is my little hexagon. There is so what you have got to imagine, how is that is an inscribed hexagon. So imagine the circle going around that hexagon outside it, and the circle is touching on each vertex of the hexagon. So that's how you place your polygons within AutoCAD itself. And again, I can't stress enough practice with each type. Do the inscribed polygon, do the circumscribed polygon as well, so that you know how each one behaves for your AutoCAD Professional Certification exam. So remember its center, radius, and don't forget the number of sides at the beginning as well. So that's your polygons ready for your AutoCAD Professional Certification exam. We are now in a new section of the AutoCAD Professional Certification Preparation course. And what we are going to look at is drawing with accuracy. We are going to look at some of the drafting tools that are provided with AutoCAD that allows you to create exact precise drawings. Now what we have got here at the moment is a drawing called for underscore drawings with accuracy tracking, and we are going to look at object snap tracking. Now for this particular exercise, I am using the completed drawing. There is a default ready to go drawing in the description box below for you to follow along with the video if you wish, but you will always get one ready to go for you to use and a completed one, so that you can see exactly what the completed version should look like. So let's have a look what's going on here. We have got two views in our draft drawing. Now we are in the model space and we have got this view down here and this view down here. Now if we go into our layers panel right here in the home tab on the ribbon, you will see that the object layer is the current drafting layer. Make sure it says that way, but click on the pull down list and you will notice that the construction layer is frozen. So click on the little snowflake and that will flow out your particular layer. And now when you click back in the drawing area, you will actually see now what is going. We have got some construction lines there, and what we are going to do, we are going to utilize our object snap tracking to create the missing view up here. So go down to the status bar, make sure that your dynamic input is on, make sure here that your polar tracking is also on, make sure here that your object snap tracking is on, and make sure that your object snaps are on as well. And just make sure by clicking on the little flyout here that you have got endpoint, midpoint, intersection, and also you want quadrant switched on, this one here, which is not a default one that is normally switched on, and you will need that to create some circles and letters. Now what we are going to look at this, we are going to look at creating this view above here. So just click there on the flyout arrow to lose all the object snap. Now we are going to go on to the line command right here, which is on the home tab on the draw panel, and we are going to come into the drawing area. Now we need to start this particular view at a point just here. So I hover over this point here. I don't click on it because got object snap tracking on. It will create a tracking point and I can have up to 7 of those. And if I now move up and then come across here and hover over this point here on the construction line, if I now drag across, I can start drawing from there. That's what object snap tracking is all about. Now the nice thing is I can just drag across. I can now hover over this point and here, and if I come up now, it will snap to the nice intersection, then like that. And then as I come across again, I'm going to up to this point here, just hover on the intersection there, and as I come across again, you will see that I can do this. But what's more important, so I can hover here, and as I come up, I now get another intersection there. So I am now drawing the plan very quickly and easily just by hovering over those points, not clicking on them, and then just using the object snap tracking to the line in the intersection like that. And then I come down to this end point, and here just click there, right click and enter to finish, like so. So there is the first part of my plan view. Now what we can also see, there is obviously a little cutout. I need to do now, obviously generate the cutout as well again. So I can go back to the line command and I hover here, I don't click, then I use the object snap tracking, get the intersection there, I click, then as I come up now, it's going to that point there on the construction line, and then come across again using the object snap tracking. I will get an intersection there, and the good thing is we know that there is just going to go straight across, so I can just come across to that intersection there. I will just hit escape now, or I can right click and enter to close the line command. Now last but not least, I need to generate a circle to show these hidden details all. So I go to the circle command now, and again I want the center radius. So I select center radius, and the good thing is I can come off this midpoint here because that's the center of the circle. So I'll hover over that, and then what I will do now is I will come over here and hover over this construction line for the center here and drag across. Now since I get the intersection, that's the center of the hole. Now how I get the actual radius of the hole? Well, if I come down here, now the hover on that hidden detail line, and then just drag. As I come up there, it is there, can you see, comes in, just click, and there is my hole as well. So if I just hit escape a couple of times, and now just to cancel any commands, I have created the plan view without projecting a single line of the construction lines for these views. It's just purely viewing using object snap tracking, and that's what you need to practice for your AutoCAD professional course. We are now in the next video of the drawing accuracy section of our AutoCAD professional course, and we are going to be looking at drawing with coordinate now. Now you will notice that I have the for drawing with accuracy coordinates, complete drawing open. You can see tab here. However, you will see we will use the for drawing with accuracy coordinate drawings that you will find in your exercise files from description menu below. What I have drawn here for you in preparation for this particular video, just 4 lines. Can you see we have got 1, 2, 3 and 4. Each of those lines is 400 units long, and the lines actually starts here at the x and y, the 0, 0 coordinate, because AutoCAD uses a Cartesian coordinate system with x and y axis intersecting at 0, 0. You will probably remember that the mathematics at school. Now what we are going to do is look at how those coordinates work when you are drafting in AutoCAD. So go to your layers panel here and make sure that lines is the current layer. There is only 2 layers in this drawing, 0 default layer and lines, but make sure you are using lines because it's green and then it stands out. And then go to the home tab on the ribbon if you haven't already. Go to the layers panel, and we are going to use the line command here. So I click on the line in the draw panel and come into the drawing area now. Because I have got the dynamic input switched on, as I move around, can you see I am getting a coordinate readout of my crosshair as I move around. Now that coordinate right now is also down there on the status bar. You will notice as well where the drafting settings are, and the good thing is I can type in coordinate of where I want my line to actually start. So I might want my line to start, let's say 200 comma 200. So I just type it in. so that the X value and the Y value, and to toggle between two coordinate boxes, there you either hit the comma key or the tab key. Now present it to confirm that first point, and you can see that my line has started dead center of that square that I have already drawn. That's because it's gone 200 along and 200 up using the XY coordinate. And because they were both positive coordinate, the X value has gone to the right to Y, the Y value has gone upward. So now if I come across and use some direct distance entry, I can actually specify the length of the line. But let's say I want the next point of that line to be the top right corner of that square. Now I know that that's going to be 400 comma 400 because the lines are all 400 long and starting at the coordinate 0 0. So if I just type in 400 now and then press comma, can you see the dynamic input updates to coordinate input? So if I type 400 again and just press enter now, that takes my line to that corner like so. Now you would have thought that it would have gone to that corner. There it hasn't. What is done? It's automatically assumed that we are going relative from the original 200 comma 200 coordinate. So that coordinate 400 comma 400, you will notice they are just above the command line. It's gone x 400 comma 400. So that means it's a relative coordinate. So it's taken 400 along the x direction to the right and 400 up y direction positive from that original 200 comma 200 point. Now if I wanted that actually go to the actual absolute 400 comma 400, I would have had to have put a different value in front of that coordinate, and that would have been the hash symbol instead. So I have now got a line that is actually 400 long instead of a line that should go from 200 200 to 400 400. AutoCAD defaults to relative coordinates. So as soon as I clicked on that line command, I started there. It's looking for a relative input and at symbol, and it does it automatically. Unless you put a hash symbol in to confirm that you want absolute coordinate instead. So that's how coordinate work in AutoCAD. So let's have a look at that one more time. Let's work that out. So go to the line command here like so, and I'm going to start up here. Now because I know that that's gonna 200 further now, but actual coordinate, the coordinate on the status bar there, it's 600 600. So if I click there now and come downwards to, you can see there that I can actually type in a different direct distance entry, or I'm going downwards on y-axis, so that's negative. So I find out, type in 0 comma minus 600. That will take the line vertically downwards. When I press enter, it takes it down to there. So you see that those coordinate, if they are negative, then just go in the opposing direction. So a negative coordinate can be input as well. It's just a different direction. It's the opposing direction to the positive direction. So x to the right horizontally is positive and y upwards is positive. The other direction are negative, and you will have to input a negative symbol in front of your coordinate values for that to work. But that's basically how you work with coordinate when you are working in AutoCAD practice. So practice with your coordinate for your AutoCAD professional course. We are now going to look at using the ortho and polar setting in AutoCAD. I am using the drawing for drawing with accuracy ortho polar complete. You can use the drawing for drawing with accuracy ortho polar drawing. What I am going to do is leave you with a finished version again, like I have done for previous video or previous part. So we are in the drawing itself, and what we will do, we will go to the home tab on the ribbon, just pop to the layers panel, just make sure that your current layer is the object layer like so. the green one, and then what we are going to do is make sure that we are in the model tab and we are going to look at the ortho setting first. Now you can use the function key 8 to switch ortho and which is F8, or you can use the down here the ortho setting, ortho mode here. Now the moment is switched off. Now I switched this on as it says there on the flyout. I'm going to restrict my cursor orthogonal. Now that's a bit of a weird word for to say, especially with an English accent. But if I switched that on now and go up to the line command, I come into the drawing area, it's prompting me to specify my first point. Now I'm going to click down here, bottom left. I'm gonna come up, and no matter which way I move the crosshair, I'm restricted in the X and Y direction. Now this is a really useful tool if you are working with regular shapes, because I can just use direct distance entry now. So if I go up there and type in 5 in the distance box and press enter, and then come this way and type 7 and press enter, and then come down this way and then type 3 and then press enter, and then go this way and type in 4 and press enter, and then come down again like this down here, and I can just draw as much as I want to know. Now I could use my object snap tracking. If I hover on that point, there I can still use it, and orthogonal. Can you see I have got the intersection there? I click and then it's a right click and close like we have done before, and you can see there that that's a nice regular shape, and I haven't had to worry about any angles because I'm drawing orthogonal as in perpendicular to each other using the X and Y axis. So I'm just going to pan that across a little bit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to my polar tracking. Now polar tracking is where I am restricting the cursor to specified angles. Now if I switch polar tracking on, you will notice it's off at the moment. You will notice that ortho automatically switched off. You can only have one or the other switched on. So I have got my polar switched on now, and what I'm going to do is click on the flipped arrow next to it, and you can see that I have got various default settings in the list. I'm gonna go into my tracking setting. I will just drag this dialog box up into the center of the screen. So there is the polar tracking tab, and the polar tracking is on the increment angle at the moment 45 degree. I'm going to add an additional angle and click on new, and that's going to be 35 degrees, and press enter. I can add any angle I want there, so I click on OK now, and what I got now is the ability to track at angles of increments of 45 degrees, and also that one angle of 35 degrees. It doesn't do increments of 35 degree thing. It doesn't do that at all. It's one extra angle. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to draft a very simple shape, and I'm going to use multiple angles. So I'm going to go to the line command like so, and my polar tracking is on now. So remember, I'm going to start at this point here and click like so, and as I drag horizontally now, you can see the polar tracking kicks in and I am at 0 degree. So in the distance box there, I am going to type 7.5 and press enter. So there is my line 7.5. Now what I can do is I can drag up this way, and there is my 45 degree increment. Can you see that? You will notice I am also getting the 1 degree increment. That doesn't matter. I want 45 like that. If I hold that at the 45 degree by taking my hand off the mouse and type in the distance of 4 in the distance box and press enter, it will draw that line at 45 degrees. Now what I am going to do now is just go vertically upwards like so, and just place a line to about there, keeping it in the 90 degree polar tracking. Just doesn't matter what distance it is, and click like so. I'm then going to hit escape, and I'm gonna go back to the line command, and this time I'm going to click here and on the end point snap left click, and I am going to come up vertically using the polar tracking, restricting myself to that vertical angle. I am gonna type 3 and enter. Now when I come across this way like this, as I drag up, you will see that I can lock into that 35 degrees, Can you see that it's locked in on the polar tracking? And I'm going to type in the distance there as a 4, like so, and then enter. And then my line is here, so I'm just going to pan down a little, and then I'm going to come up a little bit vertically, like so, and I'm going to take that vertically upwards by 2, and then enter. And then I'm going to take that across this way. Now because I have got polar tracking on, I can also utilize my object snap tracking, which is on down there on the status bar. If I hover over that endpoint and just come up, everything will track together. There is the intersection, click that down at the endpoint snap, click enter to finish, and there is my shape utilizing both the 35 degrees angle and the 45 degrees angle that I set up in my polar tracking. So make sure that you work with accuracy using both orthogonal, ortho, and also polar as well. Remember, with you can set any angle you want, even every single angle of 1 degree from 0 to 360 degree if you want to go to that level of detail. So utilize those tools and practice with them for your AutoCAD professional course. In the previous part, we looked at the ortho setting and the polar setting in our drafting settings to draft with accuracy in AutoCAD. So what we are going to look at this video is another drafting settings, and it's called polar snap. Now you will notice I have got the drawing with accuracy polar snap. Complete drawing open. If you want to follow along with this video, go and find the drawing with accuracy polar snap DWG file, and you can follow along with that because it's a blank drawing. There you can follow along with this particular video, and you will also get the complete version that I will say once we finish this video. So polar snap, what does it do and how do we set it up? Well, first things first, go to the home tab on the ribbon, go into your layers panel. Just make sure that you are got the object layer as the current drafting layer. It's a nice green color, so it stands out on the blacky gray background. Then we are going to go down here to the status bar and make sure that your polar tracking here is on. Now it is on. Click on the little flight arrow and we are going to click on tracking settings there on the menu to bring up the dialog box. Now in the polar tracking tab, make sure that polar tracking is on and you have got an increment angle set to 45 degrees. There are no additional angles like they were in previous video part, so make sure that you select the angle in the box. Hit delete to delete them and make sure that the box is clear. Now to switch polar snap on, it's part of the snap and the grid setting in AutoCAD. So go to the snap and grid tab there in the drafting settings dialog box. You want to switch your snap on like so because it's a snap settings, and then come down here to the snap, type click on polar snap. You are then going to set your polar distance, so I'm going to type in 3 and click on OK. So you'll notice now down here that snap is on and that polar is on. So what we are going to do is now is draw a very simple basic shape using polar snaps and the polar trackings. So I'm going to go up to the draw panel, click on the line command, and in the center of the screen here I'm going to click once and drag, and you will notice list appear 3, which is 0 degree and increment of 45 degree. I click, so there is my line of 3. If I come up to 45 degrees, there is my next increment of 3. I click again, come across, there is my next increment of 3. Come back down at 45 degree, there is 3 again, click again. Notice I'm not having to type in any distance because polar snap is doing that for me. So if I click there again like that, and then I'm just going to come up there one increment of 3, there is another increment of 3, like so. I come across again, another increment of 3, come down by 45, increment of 3 across, and this is great for drawing things that are regular shapes. So if I come up to there 45 degree, there is my increment of 3, along again, there's 3 again, and there is, I just come back down to the end point snap here, click again and press enter to finish. There is my regular shape now. That could be a spindle in the clear box, could be anything, but the idea being is every single line segment in that particular drawing is 3 units long. So that one, that one, that one, all 3 units long, and the angles that their constraint is there are 45 degrees, because I used the polar tracking as well. That's how neat your polar snap is make sure that you use it, and that you practice it for your AutoCAD professional course. Make sure that you use it as well. It's a very useful tool in your commercial drafting environment, whatever that may be. We have already touched on using object snaps in AutoCAD in some of the other videos or previous part. Now you will notice the drawing I have opened in drawing with accuracy or snap, which is object snap. You can follow along using the drawing with accuracy or snap DWG file in description menu below, and practice with it. The whole idea of this one is we are going to looking at running object snap. Now running object snap are the snaps that you have switched on all the time when you are working in AutoCAD drawing. You can alternate switched on and switched off any different type of snap at any time. But when they are switched on, they're running object snaps now. Just before we get started, jump to the home tab on the ribbon, go to the layers panel, and just make sure that you are using that object layer, the green layer, just so it stands out nicely in the drawing area. Now I have only got one running object snap switched on, and that is the endpoint snap. So that means I can draw from one endpoint to the another endpoint of for any line or objects. So if I go to the draw panel and click on the line command, come into the drawing area, if I hover there, I get an endpoint snap. If I hover there, I get an endpoint snap. If I hover there again, I get an endpoint snap. But you will notice if I go anywhere else, I am only getting endpoint snaps. So you will see there, because I have got the only endpoint snaps, will actually show up as a running object snap. If I now come down to the status bar there my object snap, and there if I click on the flyout, you can see that the only snap that is ticked is endpoint. So if I now switch it on midpoint by clicking on it, there is another tick switch on sensor by clicking on it. Center, there is another tick. I am also switched on intersection and extension as well. Now those are the 5 running object snap that I normally use. You don't have to switch them on, but those are the ones that I personally use all the time. So if I now click on the little fly up there, just to close the menu, if I hover now with that line command, and you will notice I am still in the line command, I can switch to my running object snap on and off. Mid command is really useful. So now if I go here, I can go endpoint, come down here now, find the midpoint snap and click, and then go back up here and then press enter to finish the line command. That's how the exec command is useful, snap command. So it may be now that I want to draw another line, so I will just right click there, repeat the line command of the shortcut menu, and I want the center of the circle. So if I hover on the edge of the circle, now you can see since the highlight, so I come here, there is a center snap. Now I want to draw a line going all the way across the midpoint snap. There I click like so, and then I press enter to finish. So you can see that I can snap from the center point to midpoint and end point to a midpoint. So I can also use intersection, perpendicular, and you will notice I have got all these different snaps available to me that can be switched on as running object snaps. Now it may be that I want to use something like an extension snap which is switched on. Let me show you how that one works. I will just lose the flyout menu, clicking on the little fly arrow, just going to pan across little bit. What I'm going to do here, go to the line command again, and I'm going to hover over this point. And now if I hover my polar tracking and my object snap tracking around, if I come out this way, can you see the extension snap kicks in? So what that means now is they will type in the direct distance of how far I want to go from that bottom right endpoint. So if I type, I say 2.5 and press enter, my line now starts to point from the endpoint snap. And the nice thing about that, I have got object snap tracking switched on. So if I hover over the at endpoint there and don't click on it and come this way, that snap nicely. They're using the object snap tracking, and there is my extra line. Press enter to finish. So all of these snaps have a purpose, but the ones that you switched on down here using the flyout menu, as you can see, the ones that are ticked are the ones that are your running object snap at any given time. Again, make sure that you practice using the snaps. You know what the snaps do in preparation for your AutoCAD professional course. Snaps are very important. They are the fundamental to your AutoCAD design and drafting. So practice, practice and practice. In one of the previous videos in this drawing with accuracy section, of course, we looked at a setting called polar snap, and that exposed us to the snap settings within AutoCAD itself. Now you do have two settings that you can utilize. They involve snaps. We are not talking objects that like endpoint and midpoint. Here we are talking about an actual snap setting where you can snap to a grid in the AutoCAD DWG file. So a quick bit of first before we get started, you will notice I have got the drawing with accuracy grid snap, complete drawing open, and I will save that so that you have got a completed version ready to look at, and you want to be using the drawing with accuracy grid snaps DWG file from description menu below. That will be the blank drawing that you can use to follow along with the videos. So let's have a look now at how grid and snap work. What we will do first. First of all, up to home tab and ribbon, go to the layer panel, and as usual just make sure that we have got the object layer as the current layer. It's that nice green color again as per the previous videos. Now what we are going to do is we are going to switch on snap and grid, but we are going to switch off polar snap and object snap here. So they are all down here. So there is your object snap. There is switched that off by clicking on it. There is your object snap tracking, or switch that off by clicking on it, and the polar will switch that off. So they are all off. Then what we are going to do, our snap and grid settings are there. See grid mode and snap mode. So click on the little flyout there and go to snap settings. This will bring up that same drafting settings dialog box. So you will notice that we need to switch the on like we did when we used polar snap down here. We are also going to switch on the grid this time though as well, and the X spacing and the Y spacing, and I'm going to highlight that and set that to 1, and if you just press tab, it automatically update the Y spacing as well. Do the same for the grid spacing. So we are going there on tab and update that as well. It says you have got a major line every 5. So basically every increment of 5 there will be a slightly different color line on the grid. Now I'm going to click on OK like so and set all of that on now. The grid itself you can just about to see it, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to right click here and go to option, and a little trick, I'm going to show you the option dialog box. Now this is a big dialog box, by the way. I'm going to go to the display tab and go to colors like so. And what I'm going to do with the colors, here again another big dialog box, is I'm just going to go to 2D model space uniform background. There is the default color there, 33, 40, 48. I'm going to change that to white so that you can see the grid. As you can see, let the little preview there, the grid by apply, and close that now, and then click on OK. There is my grid. You can see my grid nice and neatly. They are all set to increment of 1. Now I'm going to zoom in. There you will notice we haven't got much of grid. That's because our limits have been set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change limit by typing the word limit on the dynamic input. And you can see that they are reset model space limits. So I'm just going to go from 0, 0 and press enter. And then we are going to specify of the right corner, and we are going to go for a bigger size. So I'm going to go for 100, 100 like that, and press enter. Now as soon as I do that, I have made my grid limits bigger. That's using that limits command. So if I zoom out a bit now, you can see I have got much bigger set of limits now. Now these are the 5 incremental lines. So if I zoom in and get closer, you can see that there is my 1 increment square, and now this is the grid. Now the lovely thing about this is because the grid and snips are set to the same values, I can snap to the same single corner on every single square on that grid. So if I now go up to the line command and start drawing a shape. So if I want to draw, let's say, a square, can you see I can just snap to the grid like so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a square, take it across 2 notches like that, and take it down and across and then up again. And you will notice that if I just press enter now, I have got a little green square. Can you see that? Now again on that background, that green doesn't stand out as well. So what we got to do is go to our layer, utilize the tools that you have available, and we will click on the colors for objects, and we will change that to say a nice red color. Okay, then now you can see that it stands out nicely on the white background. It's amazing what you can do with the slight changes of colors in AutoCAD. And then what we will do now is we will draw some more squares. So I will do back to the line command and I will draw another square like this, and I can start creating an organizational flowchart like this. Then I will do another square, so I will press enter, right click, repeat the line command, do another one here, enter again to finish the line command, and I will right click, repeat the line again. As you can see, I can just drop this in, enter again to finish the line command, right click to repeat line, and I'm just drawing across, and I'm just using the grid and the snap settings. I'm not actually using anything else at all. So all I have got to do now is draw some more lines. So I will draw another line snap there, bring that down, 2 more square and set to confirm, right click, repeat line, and again just keep bringing all these little lines down like, and I can just keep drawing. I can just use the mouse all the time using the right hand shortcut menu. So I will bring that down there. You can see I have got some lines there. Now what I do, along here like so, take that to say there, and then right click and enter to finish. Now I might want to draw a circle that joins that lines. So I will zoom in a bit, just do a circle now, do a center radius, and that circle will go from say here, and again I'm snapping, don't need to put any distance, and there is my little organizational flow chart. And the good thing is, if I now just switch those off, so if I switch off snap to grid, and there is my lovely flowchart, all neat and tidy and regular, because I have used those 1 unit square is to space everything out nicely and tightly. So that's how you use your grid and your snaps in AutoCAD. Again, practice in preparation to become an AutoCAD professional. One of the neat tools available to you in AutoCAD when you are drawing with accuracy is the ability to draw isometrically. Now, an isometric view in any AutoCAD drawings is in essence a representation of something in 3D, but draft it up in a 2D design environment. How does that work? So well, let's do a little bit of housekeeping first. So you can see that I have got drawing with accuracy isometric complete drawing open. That's so you have got a complete version in your exercise files. And if you want to follow along with the video, open up the drawing with accuracy isometric DWG file from description menu below. I'm just gonna check that layers as well. So in the home tab on the ribbon, go to the layers panel, just make sure that you are using the green layers. So I'm just going to set right colors. So now in order to set up your isometric drafting environment, we need to set some settings down on the status bar. So I'm going to come down here to snaps and grid and do snap settings. I'm going to set it to isometric snap like. that whenever we snap to everything, it's snapping isometrically. So I will okay that. First, as soon as that happens, you will notice the crosshair changes, because what's happening is it switched on our ISO draft setting here, and I have got different tools to allow me to draft isometric, isoplane left, isoplane top, isoplane right, and these allow me just to draft in different direction. So what we have got the ability to do now is, if I do an isoplane top setting and I now go to the line command in the draw panel, what this will allow me to do is, if I click here and just drag this up consumer about but 2016, 18, 16, but I can lock at 30 degrees if I switched this on the snap mode, unlike. But also don't forget to use your polar tracking here. So if I switch that on and set that to 30, 16, 90, like so, I have never got the ability just to lock that at 30 degree. So use your polar tracking, it's always useful. So I'm going to type in 10 there, like so. So that snap particular. Now what I can do is I can come downwards as well. So if I come down that way and they will type in say 4 like that, I can then come this way. Can you see I am drafting isometrically? That's beginning to form a rectangle side of an object. Can you see that? So what I can do now, if I hover there and then come down, can you see it locks, and that's the whole idea of using the object snap tracking when I'm drawing isometrically. So if I come out this way, now I'm coming out at 150 degrees, which again is an incremental of 30 degrees. So I will take that and I will make that say 7, and then I will come up this way and again hover again as I come across. Can you see there? I can do that, but I can't snap this time. That's because what I need to do is change the setting here. So I might do isoplane left. What happened when I do isoplane left? If I hover there and bring that this way, does it locks? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on whether you are using left, right, or top. But the trick is that you are drawing isometrically very single time. So if I just hit escape there, now you can see on forming an isometric view of a rectangular solid. So if I come back here, now I want an isoplane left, let's say. So now I do another line and I can come down this way, and then that down going to be a 4 like that, and then I'm going to take that to that end point there like that. Hit escape or enter to finish. And now what I want to do is get these lines to intercept. So I need to make sure that I set it to isoplane top again, and then what I do is I do a line click and now hover on this point here to get the object snap tracking, and as I come out this way I should get a line. Sometimes you don't, depends on which settings you have got going on your isoplane settings. But what I can do is I can just draw a line and then just escape or right click to enter now and draw another line. It across to get intersection. You will notice with the object snap tracking there. So, and close out that line command, select this line here, click on the grip, take the grip to the end point snap. Let's zoom in just to make sure we are going to the right place. Just click there. If I zoom out now and hit escape just to deselect, there is my 3D representation of a rectangular solid in a 2D drafting environment. And that's how you work with the isoplane settings in AutoCAD. Again, I can't stress enough, practice, then you are ISO drafting, and then will be prepared for you to become an AutoCAD professional. Now we are moving into a new section in our AutoCAD professional course. We are going to look now at modifying existing drawings or AutoCAD objects. You may recognize this drawing from previous videos in this particular course, and we are going to use this drawing all the way through this section. So you will notice I have got the drawing open, 5 modifying objects complete. You can see that there on the tab just towards the top of the screen there is And if you want to follow along with the videos, you can download the same file from the description menu below. Now the first things we are going to be looking at is creating selection sets. Now the quickest way to select anything in AutoCAD drawing is just hover over it. You will see the highlight and click on it. So you can see there that is a rectangular polyline by the blue grips and the blue highlight that appears if you press escape a couple of times. That deselects it. Something with AutoCAD, if I select one object and then select subsequent objects, can you see it's cumulative selection set? So I can go to select as many objects as I want to. Now if I want to remove something from the selection sets, all I do is I hold down the shift key and then the keyboard and go and click on the objects and remove it from the selection. You will notice there is a little plus and minus on your crosshair in AutoCAD. So if I hold down shift again and click on another one of the red rectangular, there is one plate. You can see that I am removing those from selection. Now if I want to lose that selection set, again I hit escape to complete of times, and the reason I hit escape twice is once the cancel and any commands, and the second is to cancel the selection set itself, just to make sure that you deselect everything in case you move on to a different command. There are another way of selecting objects in AutoCAD, but before we do that, I just want to right click, go to the options on the shortcut menu. It will bring up the options dialog box, and if you go to the selection tab, you will notice there is all these different settings for selection, things like the size of your pick box on your crosshair, the grip size when you select an object. Do you want to show grips within AutoCAD block? What grip colors do you want to use? Lots of different settings that you can change. Now I don't change any of these settings. That's my personal practice. However, if you do want to change them, you can now. You will notice there is one here, noun verb selection, and noun now is an objects and verb is doing word. So as soon I would say if I uncheck that now and click on OK, if I now do something like that, if I click there and then I go and click on erase, I have to go and select the line again. And the reason that happens, I will just hit escape to lines, escape to cancel that command, is the reason that happens in the option is when you are selecting objects, what will happen is you select the noun at the object first and then the command that is by default. So always leave that ticked. Now the other one is this one, use a shift to add selection. So if I and that now I select my polyline here like I did before, and then click on rectangle, deselected the polyline, goes to the rectangle. Why does it do? That's because I have told before that I have to hold down shift to add object to the selection set. Now if I hold down shift key again and click on something I have already selected, it still removes. But if I want to add something, I have actually physically got to go and hold down shift, otherwise it selects something completely different. Now again, if I right click and go to option again, now you will notice I have got something selected there. So the contextual shortcut menu has kicked in with all the commands. I have to hit escape and then twist to deselect and then right click to get the default shortcut menu. So I'm just going to switch that, use a shift to add to selection off and click on OK again. Now the other selections we can make already been covered in selecting objects in our previous part this course, but just want to go to through them very briefly with you once again. If I click up here top left and drag all the way across and put all the objects in that crossing window and click again, it will select everything. That's because it's a window selection and everything was enclosed by the window. If I go from the right to left, you notice that I got a different window. It's everything that is crossed by the window, but also everything that is within the window. Can you see that? Crossing selection, make sure you get used to those and make sure that with your selection sets you know how your selections work, and make sure that you are using the default selection settings. Always check those selection settings. Somebody might have changed them before you take your so just make sure that all the settings are set to the default. Now selection should be on. The shift selection, it should be off by default in AutoCAD. We are now going to look at stretching objects in AutoCAD. The objects we are going to stretch in the same drawing as we use for the previous videos is this outer polyline here, this rectangular polyline. So if I select that, you can see it's all one objects. Now the reason I want to stretch all of that one objects is I want to make it longer to the right hand side. So I'm just gonna to hit escape there to deselect it, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the stretch command, which is on the home tab in the modify panel. And in this command here, stretch, so click on stretch and come into the drawing area. Now I have got to select objects prompts. So now you can see that there I have got the little pick box and the select objects prompts. You can only stretch objects by using a crossing window or a crossing polygon. So what I need to do, come down here and click from the right to left, and don't forget as well, here is a little trick for you. If I type C after the select objects prompt like that and press enter, no matter which way I go for my selection box, it will always be a crossing selection. So I could go from up here, click and drag, and can you see it's a crossing selection like so. So I can come all the way over there like that, and I want to just to get on the end of the rectangle. There I can click again, and second time that selects my rectangle ready for stretching. Now I'm just going to use the little bits so that now because I have selected those objects, I now press enter to confirm my selection, and it's asking me now for a base point. Now I'm going to utilize the midpoint object snaps. Make sure your object snaps are on and that your midpoint object snap is on. Using my polar tracking, so to stay, you can see the 0 degree there. I am going to drag to the right, and then I am just going to type in 3, which is the distance I want to stretch by, and press enter. And as you can see, it stretched that polyline quite happily. Now if I come over here towards the middle of the plate, you can see here there are just individual lines. So what happens now, if I want to stretch some individual lines, we will let go back to the stretch command, and what I will do, if I do a window selection and click on the go, from there it doesn't select anything apart from that bottom line, which is not what I want. I need to obviously select these lines too to make I stretch them and move this line at the same time. So I just hit escape a couple of times to cancel the stretch commands. Make sure you do a crossing window or crossing selection every time. So stretch command again. They go from right to left, click on and drag. So I clicked and that gets all three. You can see them highlighted there again. Press enter to confirm the selection. I'm going to use this midpoint here. Now I'm going to drag downwards using my polar tracking at 270 degrees, and I want to drag that down. So I type in 1 and then enter, and that stretches that downwards for me. And they are individual lines, that times not a rectangular polyline. So that's how you stretch your objects in AutoCAD. Make sure that you practice this, make it perfect, ready to become an AutoCAD professional. Now we are going to look at moving and copying objects in AutoCAD in preparation for your AutoCAD professional certification course. So we are staying in the modifying objects complete drawings. Obviously you will follow along with me the modifying objects DWG file, and what you might want to do is to save it each time you want a video, so that you end up with the same modifying objects complete drawings that I will. Now we are going to look at the 5 red rectangles at the top of our plate drawings. We are going to move those, and then we are going to copy the circles at the bottom of the plate. If I want to move something in AutoCAD, I would normally go up to the Home tab on the ribbon, go to the Modify panel and select the command I want, in this case move. As soon as I do that, I get the select objects prompt, and I can go and highlight and click and select the objects I want to move. I'm going to hit escape a couple of times there just to cancel the commands and cancel any selection. There is a quicker way of doing this now. If you want to do it that way, we are going to utilize that verb selection settings in the selection tabs in the options dialog box. I showed you where it was in the first video of this part. So if I know, just do a quick crossing selection like so and select my 5 rectangles like that. You will notice I have gone somewhere near the move command on the ribbon. What I'm going to do now is right click, and I have got the move command available on the shortcut menu. This is that noun selection, things now, and being the objects, verb being the AutoCAD commands. So I click on move now, and it will now prompt me for a base point now. Make sure that your object snaps are especially the endpoint snaps, and make sure that your polar tracking is on as well. Gonna select the endpoint snap there, click on, just drag horizontally to the right. Can you see there my polar tracking is kicking in at 0 degrees. So the right I type in 2 there, and the displacement of the objects, and I press enter, and you will see that they have moved along with their to right by 2 units. So that's your move commands. What about your copy command? What I want to do is I want to copy these circles again. I can go to the home tab, and on the ribbon go to the modify panel, and I have got the copy commands there. Now that copy command is also available on the shortcut menu, but it's called copy selection to avoid any confusion with copy and paste on the Windows clipboard. So I'm going to select my 3 circles again, just through and their circles, and click again, and there they are. If I now right click, I have got copy selection right there. Now what I want to do is I want to copy using the center snaps of the top circles. So I go down here to your object snap settings. You can do it mid command just to make sure that your center snap is ticked 9 ticked. Mine is so I just going to close that, and I'm going to pick the center of that circle there and click, and that's the best point, and then I move. Now when you start copying, it automatically goes into copy multiple mode. So once I click this particular copied sets here, it will prompt me for another sets. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the polar tracking and type in a distance again of 2. Press enter. So that will copy to across like that. Now it is prompting me for another sets. If I go there, it's gonna just go over that lines. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to do another distance from now. Remember, the base point is on the original selection sets, so I'm going to do 3.5 this time. So that's the 2 plus 1.5, and you will see what happens when I press enter again. Can you see there that it's copied 3.5 from the original center point over here? So that's a 2, and then I have moved the 1.5 to make 3.5. Remember that when you are copying using AutoCAD, now I'm going to press enter to finish the copy command. You can see it deselects the selection set now. Be careful when you are copying like that for obvious reasons, because when you copy, you are copying from the original base points, and if you put any distance in it, it's always from that original base point. So please make sure to practice to move and copy commands for we are now going to have a look at the rotate and scale commands in AutoCAD. These are quite hot topics and often crop up in the AutoCAD professional course. So what we are going to do is make sure that you are aware of them, how to function, and just basically the methodology on how to get them to work within an AutoCAD drawings. We are staying in the 5 modifying objects complete drawings. You can obviously follow along with your drawing from description menu below. Now the first things we are going to do is utilize your selection skills that you have gained whilst following this particular course. Now what we are going to do is delete some of the circles on our plate. I'm going to delete the whole top row and the bottom row, and the only circles that we want left remaining on the left hand side, this is any selection methodology I'm going to do. So once it's up to use any selection method you want, I'm going to do a little crossing selection here on the top row like that, and I'm going to right click, and I have got 2 rows there. On the shortcut menu, you can of course just hit the delete keys on the keyboard or use the erase commands up here on the ribbon if you wish. At the bottom right, again right click and erase on the shortcut menu, and then I want to keep these 2 here. So there's 3 I need to lose. I can do a window selection, make sure they are all inside the window like that, and again right click and erase. Then last but not least, I'm just going to select that one and perhaps use the erase on the ribbon. Now the reason I have arranged all of those circles is we are going to do a rotate command over here and the scale command over here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this particular circle about the center of the circles here. So let's do that first. Now remember, you select the objects you wish to rotate. Now the good thing is the rotate command is also available on the shortcut menu. So you can use your non-verb selection. You don't have to go up to the modify panel here and select the rotate command here. So I'm going to select here the circles to rotate, and then I'm going to right click and select rotate on the shortcut menu. Then I want the base point that's going to be my center snap. So make sure that your center snap is on and that your object snap are on my, and I'm going to click there. That's my base point. And that you notice that I rotate. Now I'm rotating there about the center of that circle. Now you will notice down there the command line, I have got the choice of copy or reference. I'm going to right click and I'm going to select copy so that my original circle is left behind. And then my rotation angle, I'm going to set that to 180 degrees and press enter. So you will see there now that I have rotated these circles with the copy option, and I have got these circles here. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rotate both of the circles again using the copy and the angle method. So I'm going to select the circles now and these circles, and then I'm going to right click and select rotate again on the shortcut menu. Base point will be the same, center snaps there. As you can see now I can rotate again, but this time I'm going through 90 degrees as you can see there instead of 180. So I'm going to do the right click, do the copy to retain the original 2 circles, and then the rotation angle, these lines I will type in 90 and press enter. And as you can see now from that one circle there I have now got 4. So that's my rotate commands again. Practice, practice, practice. Now I want to make the circles bigger, but I want to retain the original circle as well. So this circle is as big, so I select this circle, and again the scale command is available on the shortcut menu. I can use scale up here, it's on the modify panel there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to right click and you will see scale there on the shortcut menu, just there scale. So make sure that I select that, and I'm just gonna hit escape there just to come away, and I'm going to right click down here somewhere just to we can see that the menu bit more clearly, and you can see scale there. So I select scale and it wants me a base point to use the center of your original circle, the object snap like so, and then it will prompt you for a scale factor. You see that there. So as I move that out I can type in a scale factor, but I have also got a copy and the reference again. So I will right click and select copy to maintain the original, and then I can specify my scale factor. I'm going to type 2 to make it twice as big and press enter, and you can see that I have got a big circle is twice as big as original circle. So that's rotate and scale using AutoCAD. Again, make sure you practice this for to become AutoCAD professional. We are now going to look at using the array command in AutoCAD. This allows to create a polar array, which is essence is a circular array around a center point, and also a rectangular array with rows and columns. It's in essence a copy of steroids. Basically, what you are doing is you are copying, but you are copying using certain parameters so that you can copy multiple objects really quickly using the parameters that you put into AutoCAD. Now, first things we are going to do is we are going to stick with our 5 modifying objects complete drawing, and you will obviously be using your 5 modifying objects.dwgif that you are saving as you go through each videos. Now we are going to use the selection skill. Again, I'm going to select the circles here, this circle here, this circle here, and I'm going to erase those circles from the previous videos. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these 4 rectangles here, leaving the leftmost one behind, and I'm going to erase those as well. So we are going to do the rectangular array with a single red rectangle there, and we are going to do a polar array using the circle here, and the center of the circles is the center of the array. So let's have a look at how that works. Let's do the rectangular array first. So I can select the object here, and the array command is not on the shortcut menu. So I do have to go up to the modify panel on the home tab, click on this little flout here and select a rectangular array. Now as soon as I do that, it gives me a little preview that if I just pan down a bit, you can see that I have got some rectangles going off the top there. I don't want those, but what we have got to do is define in the ribbon, which you will notice has changed, it's gone into our array creation contextual tab. So you can see there that we have got columns, rows, levels, and whether it's associates. I will explain associate in a moment. So we only need the one row. We don't need 2 rows or 3 rows in the case maybe. So if I come down, let these 3 rows there. I only need the 1 row. So I'm gonna go in here 2 rows. I'm going to change that value to 1 and press enter, and that then make sure that we are got the 4 rectangles. Now I needed the 5, so I didn't. So I need to change the number of columns in here 5. Now that is 5 including original. And as you can see, that's added that along there like so. There is my 5th one just popping in on the end, and there just close the array on the ribbon, and that's now edited the ready. So the command line, that's all fade away. Now if I click on that array, you will see that they are all grouped together. It is a group now. If you want to lose that group, you have to exclude that group back to its individual rectangle. So you would then go to the home tab on the modified panel and just click on the exclude, and they are now individual rectangle again. This is a default setting in AutoCAD. When you array anything, now it groups them and make them associate. So let's do a polar arrow. Now let's have a look at the polar array using these little circles here. So I select the circle like so, again up to the modify panel, click on the flout and select a polar array. Now as soon as I do that, it asks me for the center point of the array. So using my object snap and the center snaps of that circles there, the leftmost circles you can see there, that's it's defaulted to 6 items there. In that, the number of rows is 1, levels is 1. The reason is because you may have an array row. When you rotate the items, now we are not doing that in this case, and you also want to rotate your items as the array. Now I got the circle, so it doesn't matter. But if there were squares or rectangles or diamonds, you would want to them to rotate it an angle of an array as they rotate. So that's what this rotate items is all about. There I can also change the direction counterclockwise or clockwise array as well. They are all there in place. Let's change the number of items to say 7 by change out to 7 and press enter. You will see that updates now after 7 circles equally spaced, and you will see the angles there has also changed with the between value. I will just pan up a little bit there so you can see what's going on now. So if I change that to 8, let's have a look and see what happens with 8. Can we fit 8 circles in there? So if I press 8 and update, that you can see there the 8 just fits. If I start going any higher with that number, the circles are actually going to sit on top of each other because of the radius of the circles. Again, what I will do, got to the ribbon now, close the array down, and there is my array starting with that original circle. Notice again, it associative, it's been grouped. So if I want to lose that group again, I go back up to here to the home tab on the ribbon and go to the exclude command just to exclude those, and they're back to their whole individual circles. So that's how you do a polar array and a rectangular array. Now, what was the last array that we had? This one here, it's a path array. So if I select path array, that evenly distributed objects along a path. So how does that works? Well, if we watch that little video there, can you see I can select an arc and place objects along an arc as well. So if I just hit escape there a moment, what I will do is I will just put a little circles and arc. So let's put a circles in first of all. So I will do a little circle. I will just place that say there like that, and then I will place an arc, just a 3-point arc, and I will go from the center there, just go 1 2 3 like that. There is my arc. So if I now want to do this particular type of array, a path array, I select my circle here like so, and then I right click or enter to confirm that. I then select the path curve, which is arc, and then there are so I have now got 4 going along there at a spacing between of the distance there. So if I change that value to 0.5, press enter and like so, that will update. And then what I can do is I can change the rows and the distance and the base points and the tangent direction and so on. And if I close the array, now those are all equally spaced along that line at 0.5. And there is the problem that you get where the circles are too big for the particular spacing, but they are going to along with the curves. These paths are very useful if you have got irregular curves and splineness that you want to put objects along. So that's how you use the array commands in AutoCAD. Again, make sure you practice to become an AutoCAD professional. We are now going to look at the trim and extend commands available in your AutoCAD and the sorts of things that you might be expected to do for your AutoCAD professional course. Now we are going to work with these rectangles here going across our little plates that we are creating. And what we are going to do, we are going to convert each of these rectangles in essence into 3 buttons, and they are going to be the control button on this little control panel that we are creating. Now you will notice that there is the circles here we created in the previous video. Just select them, you will see they are a group, and then I'm going to go to the home tab on the ribbon and hit erase to delete them. In the same way with the arc, going to erase that. Now zoom in nice and close on your rectangles here. You want to be able to see them, but more importantly you want to be able to get across here in between each rectangles. You will see why is a moment when we start using the trim and extend commands. You will notice I'm staying in the modifying objects. Complete drawing with you want to be following along with your modifying objects TWG file that you have been saving as you have been working through the videos. Go to the home tab on the ribbon, go to the layers panel, and make sure your layer pull down menu that you are using the rectangle layer, the red one. And what we are going to do, we are just going to draw 2 random horizontal lines across our group of rectangles. So go to the line commands in the home tab on the draw panel and just place a point here. Use your polar tracking to keep it horizontal. So make sure your polar tracking is on, and we are going to drag that across like that. So then I'm just going to press enter to finish the line. Now what we are going to do is we are going to utilize the mirror command to mirror that line about a midpoint of one of this rectangle. So select the line itself that we are just drawn on the modify panel and select the mirror command. It's not the shortcut menu, you have to go to the down this click on the mirror, first point of the mirror line. You will be there, the midpoint, go all the way across to this midpoint here and click, and it will prompt you. Then erase source objects, say no to that, click on, and there are our two lines. Now you see that we have got lines going across the gaps between the rectangle, and we are going to got, what we will need to do is define our counting edges to allow us to trim and also extend. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a really neat trick using trim and extend in AutoCAD. So I'm going to go up to the modify panel again, trim and extend, and on the shortcut menu. So if I click on the flyout menu here, trim and extend look very similar. So make sure that you select trim. Now what I want to use, I'm going to use as your cutting edges. So we are going to select this particular rectangle here, this particular rectangle here, and this particular rectangle here, and then press enter to confirm your cutting edges. Then you will be prompted to select object to trim or shift select to extend. Now remember, when you are trimming and you are extending, if you hold down shift when you are trimming, you can extend. When you are extending, if you hold down shift, you can trim. Now what we are going to do is we are going to trim here like so. Click on the bit down, bit you don't want, so I'm just going to trim those the line. Then I'm going to trim here, here, and here, and here, and then work my way across. If I click there, you can see that it's trimming to these edges. Now what happens if I want to extend a line? Well, what I can do now is hold down shift and click on the end of this line here, and it will extend. It's extending to the cutting edge. If I release shift again, now I can trim here and here like so. Then press enter to finish the trim command. Now I have done the three buttons in the middle. Now I need to make these outer rectangles into buttons as well, and I'm going to use extend this trim. So now what I'm going to do is go back up to the modify panel, click on the flyout, and select from the little menu. Now the objects that I'm going to extend to are going to be this rectangle here and this rectangle here, and then press enter to confirm that selection. Now select the objects you extend. It's going to be this line here, and it extends out to there. Now if I click there and then click again, I can extend out to there. But if I now hold down, it shifts and I can trim that line there like so. But it trims back to this line as well because there isn't an actual extension boundary. So I have kind of messed up a little bit. Doesn't matter, I can right click, I can undo that last trim like so, and then right click again and undo another step, and I am back to where I was before. Now the thing is, I can extend that throw quite happily, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to extend there and then extend there, and then I'm going to extend on the other side in the same way. So I will just extend quickly across like that and then press enter to finish. Now there is one more trim method that I haven't shown you yet. It's called dirty trim, where everything that intersects becomes a cutting edges. So I go to the modify panel, click on the flyout, and click on trim. Instead of selecting any cutting edges all there in the dynamic input prompt, if I just press enter, that means I have selected everything as a cutting edges. So now I can just hover here and I can trim there, and trim there. Make sure that I press enter to finish. Job done. All of my rectangles have converted into the control buttons on the panel plate that I'm creating, and that's how you utilize trim and extend in AutoCAD, and use that to shift select between the trim and extend commands. Again, practice, practice, practice to become AutoCAD's professional. We are now going to look at the offset and mirror commands, and we are going to utilize them to edit our little control panel plate that we are creating. So you will notice in the previous videos what we have done is we have changed our rectangle to our switches. Now so that we dial that things, so and we have also got a control button here to do is we are going to use the offset commands to edit our little green plate here, and also the mirror commands to mirror our control button, so that we have a second control button in this little area. Now I am staying in the 5 modifying objects complete drawing. You should be following along with the modifying objects DWG file that you should be saving as you go through each videos. Let's have a look at the little panel here first, which we made up of separate lines. We are going to use the offset commands to. So now I'm going to offset the top line at first. So now go up to the home tab on the ribbon, and again we are in the modify panel and the offset commands is there. So I click on the offset like so. Now the first time you use offset in a drawing, you can see it prompts you for this to option. Now I'm deliberately going to use that option at first time around and press enter. So it's now asking me to select the object I want to offset, which is the green line here. So I click on it, and then it prompts me to go through a particular point. I'm going to use that point there, and now can you see the little preview on the left there of the green line. So if I click there, now can you see it's offset these lines here, but it's offsets it through that endpoint I picked there. Now I'm staying in the offset command. Now I don't want to do that. I'm going to press enter because I want to do a different offset setting. So I just right click now, repeat offset on the shortcut menu, and it's asking me for an offset distance, which in this case is going to be 0.5, and I'm going to press enter to confirm the distance. Now the lovely thing about AutoCAD is when you hover to offset and click it, it shows you a little preview over where that lines is going to offset. So if I zoom in a bit now, can you see I am hovering either side? I want it on the outside. So I click and then I come out again like so. And I'm going to select this line here and come outside and click this line here. Click on it, just pan up a bit there, come down, and you can see the lines appearing like so. And then I want this line here again on the outside, and I click 0.5 on the outside like so, and then press enter to finish like that. So what I have got there now is a group of lines for waiting to be joined together, and we will look at that in a little while when we start using fill it in a chamfer in the next video. I need to do the mirror command next, so I'm going to pan across a little bit and I'm going to mirror these 2 circles here to the left to create another control button. Now before we do that, what I would like you to do is just draw a small vertical line just to the left of the 2 circles. I don't mind what distance away it is, but be sensible, don't place it over here. For example, you will see what I mean in a moment. So I'm just going to click on the line command in the draw panel, and I'm going to place a little vertical line. Click, drag vertically down like so using the polar tracking, and click again like that. Press enter to finish. The reason I want that line there, so that I have got a mirror line to use when I go across. Now I don't have to use a mirror line if I don't want to. I can perhaps use that quadrant on the left hand side of that larger circle. Would that make my life easier? Well, in this case it might, because that line, if I am mirror using it, it might get a clash there with that circles there. It would be much easier to use that quadrant, and then I have to circle touching the outer circle. So if you don't have to use that line at all, let's just click on that line, and we will right click and we will erase that. So I have erased that line, and let's zoom in onto the circle, pan down a little bit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the 2 circles first using the click there on the cross edges and select these 2 circles. Now mirror is not on the shortcut menu, so up to the modify panel on the home tab on the ribbon and select mirror. Now it's prompting me for the first point of my mirror line. I go down here to my object snap, click on the float and select quadrant. Now that means that the quadrant snaps will appear on the circles when I hover over. So just click on the flout arrow to close the menu. There is my quadrants there. So that's my first point of my mirror line. So if I click and then either go vertically upwards or downwards using my polar tracking, can you see, as long as I keep that vertical track using the polar tracking, it's exactly next to it. Don't do this because you will get it crossing. So if I come up vertically and click there, that's the second point of my mirror line. Do I want to erase the source objects? No, I don't want. So there is my two buttons, but they are right next to each other. So I have got to do now is select the circles, and the circles, right click using the shortcut menu, select move. Base point will be the center of the circles. Click and go to the left. Using the polar tracking, keep it polar track and type in north 0.5. Press enter and my button has moved along by north the left and zoom out, and now you can see those two buttons are sitting nicely on my little control plate. So now the last thing I want to show you very briefly is an offset of a polyline. So we go back to the offset command here, and the distance I'm going to offset is to be 0.5. It's remembered that from the last offset command I did. So I just press enter now to accept the value. I'm going to select the polyline, click on it, and I want to move out to give it an edge. Can you see that? So as soon as I come out and click it now, offsets and gives that plate edge, making it look much more professional in the drawing. So I'm going to press enter to close out the offset command. So that's how you utilize offset and mirror in AutoCAD. Make sure you practice and practice so that you will become the smart AutoCAD professional. Editing within AutoCAD is a very useful tool and provides an alternative method of editing objects in your AutoCAD drawings. Let's have a look at how that works while we stay in the modifying objects drawings that we have been using for the previous videos. So you can see how this control panel with all its little objects on it now, it's beginning to take shape. We are going to zoom in on the two control button here. So let's zoom in nice and close so that we can see how this grip editing actually. Now if you select these circles here like so, you can see there is a number of grips available to you. Now these grips allows you to edit your actual AutoCAD objects. So if I hover over that grips, that click on it and then right click, I have got this option on the shortcut menu to stretch, move, rotate, scale, mirror, change the base point or copy. These are the tools that allows me to grip edit those particular circles. Now I don't actually have to grip edit in any which way. The default grip edit is stretch. So if I click on exit there and just click on that grip there and just move upward, it actually stretches the radius of the circle. So can you see there, as I come up, I'm making that circles bigger and I can type in a new radius. It was originally twist the size to, so I can just keep coming up and make that bigger or smaller if I want. What I could do that is make that actual circle a little bit bigger. So can you see that I'm gonna make that 1.25 in the distance box like, and press enter and you can see that circle is now bigger. So if I just hit escape there, now I have made that control button a little bit bigger than that control button. So again I can click on grip edit, and what I can do is, perhaps if I want to move this to circle, what I can do is select that grip in the center, and then what I will do is I will do a right click now and I will select move on the shortcut menu, and I can now move those to a different position on my control panel. So I will just move them over here, not to worry about exactly where they go, and I will click on that moves. So I have moved those using a different method that than the regular method AutoCAD move command. So there is a number of different method of grip editing in AutoCAD. So I'm going to hit escape there just to deselect those two circles, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the inner circle here like so, and again I can click on the grip lid there and I can drag that up and I can make the radius of that circle bigger if I want to. So if I took that up to say 0.8 and press enter, that becomes a much bigger control button. So click on the grip, right click and have a look at those tools. I am just gonna hit escape there to lose the menu. I'm gonna select the circles here and just click on the grip and then right click. So as you can see, you have got stretch, move, rotate, scale, mirror, base point, copy. What you need to do is go through all of those with your objects in your AutoCAD drawings and print. Because on the AutoCAD Professional course, you do quite often get a question on grips and grips editing, but obviously I can't be specific about what type of work you are going to get. So practice using each of those grip editing methods and make sure that you are aware of how they all works and what they all do. Have a go at changing the best point, have a go at copying, have a go at doing something like the mirror using grips for example. So get into that grip editing and make sure that you get used to ready to become an AutoCAD professional. You may remember in one of the previous part when we use the offset command, we offset these green lines of our little control panel on our operation panel. Here is so there is our little control panel. So what you may have here is a little screen readout, maybe a little short of keyboard idea to press some buttons. Now what we did was we offset all of these lines, but we didn't tidy up the corners. We are going to utilize the AutoCAD chamfer and fillet commands to do that. And the way that we are going to do that is we are going to utilize the radius setting in the fillet commands and also utilize the commands to give us some nice clean corners. Now we are staying in the modifying objects complete drawings. You will be following along with the modifying object drawings that we have been saving for each video. Zoom in nice and tight so that we can see what we are doing. Use the wheel on the mouse, maybe the zoom out control, whichever may you want to do it. And we are going to do, we are going to fill it using the radius of this and this and this and this first. So we need a radius value there. Now we know that these are the offset by not 0.5. So if we go for 0.5 radius, that will tidy up these corners quite nicely. So let's have a look at that and see how that works. So we go up to the modify panel and home tab on the ribbon, and the fillet and chamfer are just here. So I'm going to select fillet. All of now it prompts me to select the first objects. Now because I haven't used a fillet in this drawing, if I just select here and then here like so on that button line, all I get is a right angle like that. Now why do I get a right angle like that? Because I haven't specified a radius. So I just jump up to the undo here on the quick access toolbar and undo that step. I'm just gonna pan up a little bit here so that you don't get all of the words coming up of the command line here. So I go back here now to the modify panel and select the fillet, and before I do anything else, right click and make sure that I set my fillet radius, and that's going to be 0.5 like so. Now I have to keep going back to the fillet, and so make sure that I switched on multiple, which means I can go and do multiple fillet over and over again. So I select this line here at first objects, and this line here at the second objects, and there is my fillet. But because I have got the multiple on, I can just carry on going line after line, tidying up my little control panel. So as you can see, I have tied those up nice and neatly like so. Now what you might want to do is to do the same on the inside. So I can just keep going using the multiple, seeing that doesn't look quite right. So because that radius obviously it's too big, there really it doesn't sit nicely with that one. You can just right click and undo the last steps that you did it. If I zoomed out, that keeps that nice right angle corner. So I just press enter now to finish the fillet command. So can you see that we have tied up those lines nice and neatly using the fillet. What about a chamfer? Let's zoom in on the top here. I will just pan down to make that roughly central. We have got some lines now. I want to these lines just purely tidy up where they intersect. So I could possibly use the apparent intersection snap, but there is a lot of fitting about there. Now the good thing is I can go to the cell for command, and I can also use the fillet command for this. So if I want to, so if I click there on a flyout and select chamfer, I can now place a chamfer for using those lines. What I will do is right click on make sure I have got multiple switched on. Now if I hold down the shift key, it doesn't matter what's value my chamfer are set to. If I hold down shift, it will always set them to 0. So if I click them and click there, I will always get the intersection. If I click there and click there, I will always get the intersection, which makes it nice and neat. Now the good thing is there those chamfer commands have worked quite nicely, but I have just set them to 0. What I do want to do is now is chamfer for the corners of these two polylines here by putting a value in so. I will go back up to the chamfer command now. I will right click now and I will set a value using the distance settings here. I can specify the angle if I want to. The shortcut menu can choose which method I want to use, and you will notice there if I pan up, I want to use the distance method. So I'm going to right click and set it to distance, and I am going to specify it my first chamfer distance. I'm going to make that 1 and then press enter. If I make the second chamfer distance on as well, which it defaults to already picking the first value, that means I get a nice 45-degree chamfer. Now I can select the first line, or bear the mind that those white lines on the outside are polylines. I can right click and select the polyline method for chamfer. Just select the polyline, it does all the corner for me, and then I can right click and repeat chamfer. It remembers the distance. You will see that there on the command line in the bottom of screen. And what I will do, I will right click again and select polyline, and I will do the same with this one. And as you can see, it's done all of that for me. So those polylines have now been neatly chamfered as well. So I have now got my nice little control panel, go there, all my little instrumentation and so on. There is my dialer, there is my control button, there is my switches, all done and dusted using the fillet and chamfer commands. Now again, a fillet and chamfer do come up regularly on AutoCAD. Make sure you practice the settings and practice we just looked at this particular video, so that you are ready for the whether it comes in the exams or in your work that you are not prepared and you can't answer the question. For example, we are now in the next section of our AutoCAD Professional Certification course, and we are now looking at additional drawing techniques. So we are going to have a look now at drawing and editing a polyline in AutoCAD. Now, polyline is a group of line segments and joined together to form an outline or a boundary. So, if we look at the drawing we have got open at the moment, you can see it's 6 additional drawings technique and then polyline complete. I'm using that one so that you have got a completed version at the end of this video. You can use the drawing 6 additional polyline DWG to follow along with this particular exercise. You can find the exercise files and download them from the description menu below from this particular course. Now this is a polyline, it's an outline of an arched window, and you can see it's a polyline there. When I hover over it, AutoCAD tells me it's polyline and it's on the layer polyline. Now what we are going to do is just quickly go to our layer panel here, and in the home tab and the ribbon, make sure you are using the layer polyline. You can see we have got two different layers, they are line and polyline. If you are drawing polylines, you want to be on the drawing layer. Now what we are going to do is we are going to replicate this arch window to the right of the window. Now the polyline command itself is on the draw panel on the home tab on the ribbon. So there is the draw panel and I click on polyline. So I come into the drawing area and it's very much like the line commands. It's asking for that first start point. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna hover on this point here, and so make sure that your object snaps are on, object snap tracking is on, and polar tracking. So and then as I drag across this way, you will see that my extension snaps kicks in with the object snaps. I'm going to type 100 and enter, and you can see that I'm starting this polyline over here. Now what I'm going to do is just my polar tracking and just come up with vertically using the 90 degrees on the polar tracking there, and I'm going to make that 85 high and then press enter. Now that gets me that lines there. Now I need to create that arcs, and now you will notice on the command line here I have got an option for arc. I can just come down here and click on arc like so. Can you see now I have got an arc ready to go in. Now what I'm going to do is just drag across using my polar tracking to specify the diameter of that arc, which is going to be 65, and then enter. And you see that arc is formed. Now be careful because it will want to draw another arc. So now you have to go back to the line option now and click on that and command line, or I can right click and select the line on the shortcut menu, and I am back now using the line. Can you see again and again that's going to be 85 again, that's way, and enter. And then what I can do now, because I have done this all in one continuous group of line segment, I can just now right click and select close as I can with the line commands. But I am also closing the polyline to form a closed boundary, which means at boundary, that polyline's boundary will actually have an area and a perimeter. So if I click and close, and now replicated my arc window, and you can see it's all one polyline. So that how you create a polyline. What about editing a polyline? I will select the polyline you have just created, this one here. So you click their line. So, and I will go up to the modify panel in the home tab in the ribbon, and I'm going to click on exclude it all back to its original arc and line segments. So how do I now actually edit that polylines? While I use a command called the polyline edit. It's on the flyout menu here on the modify panel. So if I click here, polyline edit is there. I can also just type p edit or just PE for short. So I can click there, or if I come into the drawing area and just like PE, that polylines edit, you can see it comes up with the suggestion menu that they press enter. Now I need to select a polyline. Now none of these are polyline yet, but if I select one of them, AutoCAD will prompt me, do you want to turn into that one? Yes, I do. So press enter to accept. And then this is a little shortcut menu kicks in, which has gone slightly off the button on the screen. And click here on join in the actual commands, or I can click on the little menu that's popped up. But if I click on join, I then have to select all of the other lines and arcs I want to join. So that polyline I just created, so there's two lines in that arc I want to join. I will then right click to confirm. That you will notice there are lots of other things I can edit to. I can edit the vertex, for example. In the polyline I can edit the width of the polyline, giving it an which giving a thickness can be changed. The line type can reserve the lots of different settings there for polyline. So you will need to investigate those. If I just fill escape a couple of times. Now just to close the polyline edit command down, you can just see that is now a polyline again, where I have used a polyline edit to join the segments together to make a polyline. So that's drawing and editing your problem in AutoCAD. I can't stress enough, make sure you practice, ready for to become an AutoCAD professional. Blend command in AutoCAD is extremely useful if you have used the spline commands before in AutoCAD, which is a control curve using control points such as this spline. And this spline here, you can actually create a blend that continues that spline between the two. We start a little bit of you can see that I'm using 6 additional blend complete as the drawing you want to follow along with this video, using the 6 additional blend complete DWG file. You will find in description menu below. Go to the layers panel and home tab on ribbon, and make sure that your layer that you are using in the blends layer, so that when you place your blends, it's obviously on the blends layer. So let's have a look at how this blends works rather than go searching the ribbon. These times you obviously can just type in your command using the dynamic input. So I'll just type the word blend like so, and you can see that comes up with the suggestion menu. So I will just select blend by clicking on it. So what happened there is it creates this blends, it curves between the two lines that we have already got on the screen. And you can see there that the continuity is set to tangent. So basically we will be tangential connection from this end to this end. So I select the first object, which will be my left hand spline. Select the second object, which will be my right hand spline, and when I click there, my blend like so, it's that quick and easy. Now you will notice that this objects here where I hover over, it is a spline on, and layer spline, this objects here is also spline on the layer spline. This one here is also spline, but it's on the layer blends. So it's actually created this beautiful extra curves that cuts in beautifully in the two spline. Very useful if you are creating something like contour line or on mapping drawing, for example. And again, I can't stress enough, make sure you practice this one, test the continuity, change it from the tangent to something else, and see what happens. But always practice, ready for your work. You can apply hatches and gradients fills to any AutoCAD objects. So we are in the drawing here, which is 6 additional hatch gradient underscore complete. To follow along with this video, use your 6 additional hatch gradients TWG file as usual. Now what we have got here is two views of a small bracket. Now this particular view here is a cut through view. It's a sectional view as is this one's here. So there is no hidden detail because we are actually cutting vertically down through the hole. There is two, and here, and then we are slicing vertically the other way to get this view here on the left. So we need to hatch in this particular view on the left, and I'm going to use a gradient fill here to make this look metallic because it's all made from metal. So first thing we need to do is just check our layer. Go to the home tab on the ribbon and go to the layer panel to check that you are using the hatch layer. Always good to have it on a separate layer, separate color, possibly even a separate line, and get into that heavy it's a line weight, because then you can freeze that particular layer or switch it for complicated drawings. Now the hatch command itself is on the draw panel in the home tab on the ribbon. If I click on this little flyout here, we have got hatch gradient and boundary. I'm going to select hatch now. As soon as I do that, you will find that the ribbon changes completely and we go into a contextual tab called hatch creation. Now you have got all the settings, so with your actual hatch settings here similar to the old dialog box that you used to use in older version of AutoCAD. So you will notice up here with the boundaries we have got a pick points, or I can select objects very similar to the old dialog box. I'm going to make it associate. So you'll notice like the switch associate on and of like. So now also as well, if I want to set the origin, it's here, and also if I click on the this little down arrow here in the option, I can create separate hatches. I can set my island to, I can say to example we are going to go for a normal island detection in the case, because we need to go that hole in the middle. Now in order to select our pattern, there is our hatch pattern icon. Then now if you have got a higher screen resolution than me, you will be able to see those hatch pattern already. Now we have also got pattern gradient, solid fill, user defined. We are going to use a regular AutoCAD hatch pattern in this case. So I click on hatch pattern here, and I am going to go for the NC31 cross hatch like that. Now what I have you can see that looks like it's filled in. That's because the scale of my hatching is too big, so I need to go up here and change the value. I'm going to go for 25 at least at a test. It's a bit of a black art hatching actually. You just check the scale like that, and then when you go in there, that's the bit too big. So we need to somewhere between 1 and 25. So if I say 10 and press ends, and there, let's have a look, and that's a pretty nice on perfect. And I might want to change the angle of the particular hatch because it's following the lines at the moment. So if I change the angle, I can come up here, type the value, and I want it to go to 180 degrees and press enter. If I hover now, it's going the same way. That's because I had twisted it around 180. If I change that back to 90, because I am already at 45 degrees, remember, then it goes the other way, which is how I want to go. Lovely thing is with that peak point, now I get this lovely preview and I highlight boundary, and I can click there, and that is now hatched, and you will notice as well it's highlighted and hatches boundary. So if I hit escape now, I just come out of the hatch command. When I select that hatch, it selects like so, and it's got a boundary, it's associative. So if I edit that boundary now, for example, and move one of the vertical line or horizontal, that polygon. So if I click there and I click on that grip and use a bit of grip editing, so of what, so if I just take that up by say, let's say 50, can you see it changes completely? So what I have done there is just using that polar tracking, it's changed it completely. If I just undo that, take it back again, that's what associative is all about. It's very useful because when the hatch is associated with the boundary, now we have got our other sectional view, and here we want a gradient fill these two areas here are. So again, back to the draw panel, click on the flout, and I want to gradient fill, and again I get the contextual tab on the ribbon. Now you will notice I have gone into the gradient settings here on the flout menu. So I selected gradient now instead of pattern. Now we can have one color or two colors. I'm going to go with the two colors option, so I'm going to change this from the blue. I'm going to go to a nice sort of metallic blue. and then the other color I might make like a gray, like so, to give a metallic look. And then you can see again it's associative based on the boundaries. And what I can do here is, in the option I can create a separate hatches or make this into one hatches. So let's use separate hatches this time, and they will be centered on the areas that I picked. So again we are using pick points, and I am going to hover there, and I don't want that one, I want that one below. Now it's telling me to edit those hatch boundary grips up there on the information center. Don't worry about that, let's just let me know that these are hatch boundaries grips that could becomes non-associative. So I have picked those two points there like so, and press enter to finish, and there is my lovely gradient fill showing that as a nice metallic color. And that's pretty much how the hatch and gradient work in AutoCAD. Again, go ahead and practice to make sure you are ready for your AutoCAD professional exam. Now we are going to have a look at working with curved polyline. So you will notice I have got the drawing 6 underscore additional underscore curved lines underscore complete open. So this is the complete drawing. You can see it there on the tab at the top of the drawing window there. You need to open up 6 additional underscore curved lines to follow along with the videos. Now you should recognize it from the previous video where we created the polylines with the arcs at the top. I'm just gonna pan those across now. I can leave one there. I just need some right hand side to create a curved polyline. So what I will do, I will go up to my layers here, some on the home tab on the lit ribbon into the layers panel. Just make sure that you are using the polylines layer, the green one obviously, and we are going to draw a curved polyline. And the lovely thing about curved polyline is you can draw them hover over which may want to go up to the draw panel and click on the polyline command. Now the start point is exactly the same as any other line or polyline, pick a point on the screen. So if I click like, so I can specify my start point. Now you will notice, can you see that on the command line at the bottom of screen, that I have got the next point, or I have got arc, half, width, length, undo, or width. So I'm just gonna right click on the mouse and I'm gonna select arc. So this is how I start to create my curved polyline. Now you will notice that the arc goes counterclockwise like it always does in AutoCAD. So I could add the curve like so. If I use my polar tracking, can you see as I drag that up now and type in 100 like that, gives me 100 diameter, and I'm just gonna pan up a little bit. And as you can see there, I came down, it goes to the other way because it is going counterclockwise from the last point of the previous arc. So I'm going to come down now by 25. So that's another diameter 25 arc, giving me a curved polyline. So if I click there like that, there is my arc, there is like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click again, and on the shortcut menu I'm going to select line, and then I'm gonna come vertically down like so and type in 50 and then press enter. And then can you see I have got the ability now to close that off, creating a curved polyline. Now if I right click again and select arc, can you see there is it's now going to wrong way. Can you see that? So as I come out, it's going the wrong way. So if I come down like that, it's creating, it's closing out, but it's not doing what I want to do. So what I'm working with curved polyline, sometimes I have to adjust what I'm doing. So can you see there, I have got direction down here. So if I click direction now, can you see I can change the direction, so the tangent direction for the start point of the arc. And you see that, so there is that tangent direction. I can also just hit escape once, and that takes me back to the angle sensor. And so now what I might do here, I don't want my arc to do that. Can you see it's coming out like that? So what I need to do though is just type 25 and press enter, and it places an arc that looks a bit weird, doesn't it? Can you see that there is now a reason it's done, that is purely become it's filling that gap, so that I can then close this out. So if I now close, can you see I have got a bit of weird curved, but it is a closed polyline. If I want to edit that, the best way to edit is to actually use the art command. And sometimes you have to do that because sometimes the way that the curve commands comes in just comes in the way you want to it. So I will just click on the polyline like so, go to the modify panel and extrude it. So it's all extruded back to its original components lines. Arcs quickest way to do is to just go to the delete and one. So I will just hit the erase over and the modify panel and copy this one. So I will select that and I will use the copy up here if you want. So I can right click and copy and that end point here. So that end point and press enter to finish. There is my curved polyline. Now I type PE polyline edit like so. I select any part of I want to be the polyline. Don't turn into one. Yes, I do. I press enter there to confirm the yes. Then I use join and then just select all of them 1, 2, and 3 and 4. You can even select the original one. Press enter to finish. Enter again just to close out the command. And there is my curved polyline all set up and ready to go. So that's how you can create curved polylines quickly and easily. If I want to edit that, I can click on it. There is all my grips. So I can click on that grips and drag this out. And as you can see that then changes the looks that curves polyline completely. Just don't undo that and take it back. But the whole idea is those grips then the latter edit things like the start points and the end points of the curves. I have drawn here so far is actually on layer 0. So if I hover there, that is a line on layer 0. That also a polyline on layer 0. Now you will notice in the home tab on the ribbon, we have the properties panel here where we can work with colors by layers, lines, weights and line types by layer. They are normally set to by layer by default. So at the moment all of these objects in the drawings are adopting the properties of the layer 0. Now you can change individual objects properties and sometimes you need to do that in AutoCAD. It depends on what you are working on at the time. So for example, this center line here, it's on layer 0 and I might want to keep it on layer 0, but if I select it and then go to the properties here, I can change the color. So I might want it to be say green color. So I have changed the individual object properties of that line. It's now green. If I now click on the center line again and go back to the properties panel again, let's say I want to change the line weight. I want it a little bit bolder. Let's switch it to 0.3 there, that make it a little bit bolder. Now I do need to switch the line weights on down here in the status bar for that to stand out. Now if you want to check with your line weight icon is in your status bar, you go down here, click on the 3 little lines and just check where the line weights is switched on. Now if I go all the way up here, right up here, can you see line weight isn't it ticked? So if I click that there are the 3 little lines, then see my lines weight tool on the off view here. So if I now click on that, you can see that the line weight is bolder. And let's go back to that properties panel and last but not least, let's change the line type and make that a center line, and that is now a center line type. And if I just hit escape there, just to deselect it, zoom in a little bit, you can see that the center line type there is a scale is obviously very large compared to the size of the object. So I might need to change the LT scale at some point, but it's very easily changed. So I just select the line again, go back to the properties, let's change it to the different panel or line type. This time let's go for something like hidden. We go and you can see the hidden obviously changes according the gives me a dashed line. So that's how I change my object properties. Now I can do this with all of this. I can select that polyline. I might want to be say red. Let's make that red color. And so now you can change all of your object properties at any time. You can also select an object and right click and go to the properties panel. So I might want to change all of these dimensions here and put them on a dimension layer. For example, so if I select each dimension like so, And then if I right click on the drawing area, let's just go to the screen slightly and shortcut menu right down near the bottom. You will find the properties palette which is just appeared slightly of the screen there. There will be the properties palette, so you can see there that we have got rotated dimension as they are called AutoCAD, and the layer at the moment is 0. If I click there and select the dimension layer, you can see that the changes the properties of that particular layer. And if you want to check that the palette, the clicking on the cross and going to the, let's select the this dimension and go to the properties panel, and you can see the layer dimension is the adopting all the properties for color, line type and line weight of the dimension layer that we have put in the dimension to. So that's how you can change your object properties in any AutoCAD drawing. Again, for your AutoCAD Professional Certification exam, make sure you practice using the properties plates and the properties panel. Use the where things are the how you work. They are the previous video. We looked at the changing object properties individually, and we didn't mention about layers and how we can alter layer assignments objects in the drawing itself. So I have got a similar drawing open. This times it's called 7 organizing altering say layer complete. If you want to follow along with the blank version of this video, so it's you can download from the description menu below. So you will notice we are back to the square once again. So if I hover over the dimension layer, the color layer is 0. If I select the dimension and go to the properties panel here, it is called by the layer, it is by default setting. So basically the dimension I just selected is adopting all the properties from the layer. So if I go to the home tab to the ribbon and go to the layer panel, now you will see in the properties panel I have got all of the different layers available. So I have got center line, I have got the hidden line here, got object layer. So what I can do is I can change the layer assignments for each particular objects in the drawing. So I will just shut down the layer properties manager by clicking on the cross and palette, and I'm going to do is going to select each of the objects in layer drop down menu and change the layer. That for example the 3 dimension layer is select and first, and then I go to the layers here and I can the pull down menu and I'm gonna select this dimension now because they are by layer. For that color, line type and line weight, they are adopted from the properties of the dimension layer. So I find out the hover over that you will see there it's by layer and color is on the layer dimension, line type, and also they are on the dimension layer. See, if I select center line here like so, go to the layer panel again, go to the pull dimension from menu from the select center lines. So if I have pulled all the center lines layer, and then this might be hidden details all doing back to the layers. For example, go to the back layers and click on the flower menu hidden line. They are now you can see they are adopting the line type from the hidden line layer, which is the hidden line in the, and this polyline needs to be go on the object layer. So again I go to the pull down menu and pull that everything now is on the corresponding layer now. That's the normal way that you would work within AutoCAD. You would create the layer for the particular type of object. Sometimes, and with the later version of AutoCAD, you will get this where it's saying, do you want to plot to a single sheet? Now you can switch it off. You can say, do not show me this again. Now I'm just going to continue to plot it to the single sheet, but in the later version of AutoCAD 2016-17, you get that little dialog prompts come up like that. Now I am plotting from the model tab. I have got no page setups for the model tab, but I'm just gonna set the plotter, so I'm gonna do a DWG to PDF later. So I'm gonna go out to a PDF for me, and I'm using the NCA, which is the regular 8.5 by 11 inches sheet. So the like that I'm gonna change the drawing orientation here, make sure it's landscape, and I'm now gonna go what to plot, and I'm gonna select it here, the window command. This is this window command I mentioned. So I select window like so, and I now specify the window area I want to plot. And now I am gonna go from here and click and just drag the window area over to about there and click again. So that's the area that is currently fitting on my sheet. Now the reason is fitting is I am using this fit to paper option. Can you see I get a red line, it goes off. Then if I just say I want to fit the paper like so, that's done. Now I want to center the plot on the sheet as well. Can you see that it sent it to the preview? Now actually going to plot this PDF, but what I can do now is I can click on a preview, and there it shows me what fits into that 8.5 by 11 sheet. I can then right click and exit, and it takes me back to the dialog box, which I just need to drag down for you see. There now plot style table. Let's say I change that something like monochrome just to save to some ink. I will say no for the signing. It's all layouts. If I preview it black and white, that's perfect for me to the pop into the clipboard or into the notepad, and I can take that with me. I can add some red markup. What's actually going to go is now to add particular sheet of paper like blocks out, or I might be using something like Autodesk design review on my tablet or on my phone, my smartphone, and it could be any device. You can take it mobile if you want to, because it's PDF, which stands for portable document format. So I will just right click there now and exit that, and it takes me back to the dialog box again. So if I wanted to plot that, all I would need to do is click on OK, and it would plot that window there. So if I now click here and drag it to say they are like that and click there, that's a different window entirely. If I preview it now, it shows the different area that I have windowed in the model space. So it's a great little tool for just tucking of a model space into the own sheet size, where that particular expert from the drawing, so I can use it later perhaps when I go on site to mark up some dimension. So again I will right click, exit, there is the dialog box back again like so, and I will just cancel that now for purposes of training rather than plotting. So that's how you can utilize that window command to make your life easier to get expert of your model or your design, so that you can work with them perhaps on site or factory floor. So here we are now in the final video of our AutoCAD professional course. Our conclusion, our next steps. What are we going to do next? Well, hopefully, once you have taken this particular course, you should be prepared to practice more for your certification exam. This particular course is no guarantee that you are going to pass the exam. The whole idea of this course is to prepare you for the exam and get ready and aware of all the tools and settings in AutoCAD that you need to know about in order to get prepared for the professional certification exam. So drawings like the 11 next steps house drawings that you can see on the screen at the moment are the sort of drawings that you need to be creating and working with before you take your professional certification exam. All I can do now is wish you luck and wish you well with all of your practice for your professional certification. It is a great qualification to have. It's very useful to have on your resume, especially when you are going for job roles that include AutoCAD, for example. But for more importantly, it's a good benchmark to prove that you are a professional AutoCAD user. The other thing that you might want to promote is making sure that everybody within your organization gets their professional certification. It's a great benchmark. It means everybody is of the same high standard within your organization. So again, I wish you luck with your AutoCAD professional certification exam, and I wish you all the best with all your practice and preparation before you take the exam.